Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on November the 9th, 2016. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the actual happy one this time.
Caffeine Rage, and that doesn't bode well.
It does not. On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played this week. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has issues. Steam updates its store. Project Scorpio will play UWP games at 4K. Uwe Boll retires from filmmaking. No Man's Sky will reveal itself to be all that it can be. So says Sony. RimWorld has sexist code. Facebook announces Game Room. We'll have our weekly community quarter and our Steam weekly deals discussion. And as always, timestamps will be following the respective topics in the show notes.
And in the YouTube descriptions.
Indeed. So,
or at least mine.
Astute listeners to our show will notice that something is missing, and I think we have to tackle this first and then politics second. We don't have Game Club on there this week, and it's supposed to be a Game Club week.
And that's my fault. I just got completely burnt out on Skyrim, trying to force myself to play through it enough to actually talk about it. Mostly through the main quest, since I never completed the main quest. And yes, I realize that an Elder Scrolls main story is not the main bit of the game, but still, it feels wrong not being able to talk about it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the main story is a pretty big focus of the game because it is the overarching story that guides everything else revolving in the world. So, I mean, there's a lot more to a Skyrim game than just, or an Elder Scrolls game than just the main story, but it is very important.
And I was being very negative because I was holding myself back from a lot of quality of life mods, mostly to get the guards to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we had set a rule on ourselves, if you remember, listeners, that we were not going to use very many mods. Nothing that would affect the overall gameplay. I mean, UI mods and prettification mods and things like that were fine, but nothing that really changed the gameplay. And I like Skyrim, so that was fine with me. And Rage doesn't, so he was having a miserable time. So we're going to give Skyrim an extra week for us to go through it some more. But this also sparked another discussion between us about how we are going to handle Game Club in the future. And we'll get to that.
We have some rather major games on the Games Club list, just in general.
Yeah, so when we get to the question of the week, I think we'll have that discussion there, because the question of the week is going to revolve around that. But,
Well, it's not this question of the week, it would be for next week, so we should probably talk about it now.
Sure, we can talk about it now.
We're wanting to talk a bit about the frequency of Game Club, just how often we have the Game Club, because let's be perfectly honest, the Game Club has kind of consumed things, particularly when we talk about story-driven games.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first Game Club, it was the entire episode for Bastion.
Yeah. And Bastion is a 6-7 hour game.
Yeah. And we talked about it for 2.
Yeah. Game Club on average consumes at least an hour of the podcast. So.
Yeah, unless we just didn't have a lot to talk about. And I think that would be very rare.
Yeah, I think MechWarrior was the only game that really did not have a lot going on.
Yeah, but that was also more talking about the mechanics of the game and the model, or the pricing model, which that's a short discussion.
Yeah. So our thought was either we move Game Club from every other week to once a month. That way, one, that gives us more time to play through the games and form more coherent and full opinions about them. And two, it reduces the amount of podcast time that gets eat up by Game Club. Or we could take it on a game-by-game basis. And just whenever we finish a game, put up a poll for the next Game Club game. And just decide from there. Which would make it pretty irregular and not necessarily difficult, but just it would excuse me, sorry. It would just be odd, I guess is the best way to say it. Yeah, because we're pretty, I mean, we try really hard to have a fairly organized show. I mean, we always spend
even
time
though it
discussing
doesn't really come across all that well.
It might not seem that way, but we sit down and we discuss topics and we come up with like estimates for how long the show's going to be and to try and stick to times and where to put certain topics. So not that we couldn't handle it, but it would be a little bit of a monkey wrench in things. So
yeah,
those were kind of the two options that we came up with.
Well, there is the third option is that we keep it as is, but we drop pretty much all the games that would require more than 2 weeks. We wouldn't have another discussion about a game the size of Skyrim again. And honestly, I don't think that's a good way to go with it.
No, I don't think so.
But it is
either.
on the table.
It is. So we thought that this would be something good to have our community to discuss because, I mean, we've grown a decent little corner of the internet over here. We're up to nearly 200 subscribers, and each episode on the feed gets more weekly plays than that. So there are people who are subscribed to us in ways that don't get picked up, maybe direct RSS subscribers or something like that that don't get picked up on FeedBurner. So I'm going to estimate that we're somewhere between 200 and 300 weekly listeners. So, one, go us. But two, I think that we've got enough of a community around us to, let you guys have some input. So, not only you can discuss the ideas that we came up with, or, if you've got your own ideas, please give them to us and we will consider it along with you. We just want to make the best show that we can that the biggest majority of our audience enjoys.
And if you have any suggestions or feedback on that, you don't have to wait on the question of the week, which will be a couple hours after this podcast goes live. You can just go ahead and tweet in your other suggestions for it on Twitter, VGL Podcast, or email us. If Twitter is not a great place for huge discussion, so if it just doesn't fit, just email it to us at vglpodcast@gmail.com.
You also can discuss it with us on Discord. We have a Discord server. If you do a server search, it's VGL Podcast or Video Game Logic. Both of those should pull it up. We also have a permanent link. I got a fixed link after last week's podcast, so we'll put that somewhere in the description. I'll let Rage decide since he's the one who did the show notes.
Yeah, it's been in the show notes since last week, and I forgot to put it on a permanent spot on the website as well.
But we will now have a permanent link to our Discord channel in the show notes, so you can come by there. There's a specific thread for suggestions for the show. You can put it there as well. So look at us having like a little professional audience discussion.
Yeah, what happened to VGL? This seems weird.
Moving on up. I'll get to this later too, but I got my first free game, first review copy from VGL this week.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, so that's where you got transport fever. And
that is where I got transport fever.
You weren't getting a spanking.
Nope.
I didn't get one.
I got it 2 days early. Or was it 3 days early? It's 2 or 3 days early, whatever. So,
not sure what that says about me not getting one.
Well, they contacted me directly after I sent them the email. They went and looked up my stuff, I guess, to check my credentials or whatever.
Yeah, there's a big thing about people impersonating other people to get review copies. That's part of the reason why I use a third party to get review copies these days, is that it's more secure.
Yeah. I sent them an email through VGL, with our VGL link, and they looked up our podcast information and saw my name and then looked me up on Twitter and on YouTube, and then they emailed me through my YouTube business email. And we're like, hey, are you this person? I was like, yes, I am. But we'll get to that later. Right now, we need to have the discussion that everyone who follows me on Twitter knows is coming. We're about to talk about the U.S. presidential election and perhaps some U.S. politics in general.
Yeah, the elephant in the room, if you would say.
Yeah. So we decided
and I'm waiting for you to get the pun.
No, I get the pun. I'm laughing.
Distracting you.
I'm not laughing. We decided to have this conversation early in the show so that we get it out of the way and then we can leave happy instead of sad. But thanks to the magic of editing, as soon as I finish this sentence, elevator music will play, and then you can listen to this after the show. It'll play after our theme song, our outro.
On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. And you can find his music at incompetech.com.
Yep. So, editing magic, we'll see you after the show. Rage, it's time for you and I to have a discussion. All right. Well, thanks to the power of editing magic, we probably sound a little bit sadder, but, it's time for the happy part of the show. So let's go talk about the games that we played this week, Rage.
All right. Well, the first one I played was Call of Duty Black Ops, particularly the zombie mode of it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, this is the first time I played a Call of Duty game since... Well, let's put it this way. The last time I played a Call of Duty game, I was throwing potatoes in the training mission.
So that was Call of Duty 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say, not enthused, really.
Kyle did leave us both to die.
Yeah, well, I think the zombie mode just isn't for me because it is so formulaic. Or at least how Kyle plays it. And, I'm just saying there... listening to him say, okay, we'll leave here when one of us has 3,000 points. And it's not particularly fun to me.
Right.
Maybe I'm being a party pooper on that. I don't know.
I don't know. I kind of just ignore anything Kyle says. except when it comes to all right, let's run a pain train. I pretty much just ignore everything he says.
Maybe it's just, I'm sitting there and I'm have little clue of what's going on and listening to all these formulas and everything else, him setting particular goals for parts of the map. And, it's taking out all the discovery.
Right.
And really all the fun to me.
You and I together should just play a few rounds because when I play with Kyle basically is just in charge and I'm fine with that. I'm just kind of along for the ride. And I have a good time because I like to murder zombies. But, if you and I just played together, I don't know as much about the zombies mode as Kyle does. So I'm a little bit more I know the layout of the maps that I have, but outside of that, I'm like,
well, the thing is also I have, 2 maps?
Yeah, you've only got 2 maps. How many do we have? Several. I think we've got 5 or 6 maps that we can play on, so...
And I have no interest in buying the DLC for more maps, considering, I'm not exactly having fun with the zombies mode.
Yeah. You did really well, honestly. You've only played, 2 or 3 matches?
I think that was I'm pretty sure that was my 3rd match that you came in on.
Okay, so... it's probably just general game experience overall.
I will say that the controls felt weird. I'm not sure if it was where I was uploading at the time and it was causing some sort of weird lag, or it felt like there was some mouse acceleration and I just couldn't find where to turn it off.
There is. It's weird. I've got a gaming mouse, so I've got different mouse acceleration curves set, and I've got a default that I usually use. But for games that have mouse acceleration, I can really quickly switch back and forth between profiles to find one that works. Call of Duty, its controls are weird. They just kind of suck for keyboard. It definitely shows that game is more successful on consoles.
Yeah, my mouse only has DPI settings, so I was quickly swapping between them, trying to find one that, wasn't making it so that I had absolutely no... control whatsoever.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're living with Jerry Lewis.
No, that's Katie. I don't know what she's doing.
Tripping over something else.
She getting food.
Assuming that you didn't just edit that out.
Nah, it's too much work. She said she was sorry. It's fine, sweetheart. We all love you. But, no. She's glad to hear that we love her. So, have you played the multiplayer yet?
No, and I have no intention of playing the multiplayer. I may go play the single player.
Well, I play the multiplayer with just Kyle and Mel. We do the combat training mode, which fills in all the empty slots with bots. And that's a lot of fun. We mostly just screw around. The bots are smart enough to be a challenge if you're like just screwing around. If you're really focusing, they don't stand a chance. But, it's fun. Kill some time. It's mostly just a place where we can go talk, do something.
Yeah, I just really have no interest in that.
That's fair. The Black Ops single player is actually really good. Black Ops has one of the best single player games out of the Call of Duty franchise. So it's pretty good. Although some of it you won't get if you haven't played World at War. It goes and connects back to that Call of Duty game, but you won't miss a ton. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't decided if I want to go back and play the single player yet. I have other things I need to do, including setting up RimWorld for its reset.
Yeah.
Which is where I've spent most of my time this week. I only played a little bit of Call of Duty and a little bit of the other game that I played. Most of my time, my free time, was actually getting RimWorld set up and ready to go.
Yeah, I would say give it a shot.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I swear I didn't do that on purpose, but I'd give it a shot. The first couple hours of the campaign are pretty good. It definitely gets better the farther you go along, but the first couple hours are pretty representative of what you're going to be doing throughout the rest of the game.
Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is see if I can find a way to kill that fucking mouse acceleration.
Yeah. You could probably do it in the registry files, or not the registry files, the
INI?
Yeah, the INI file. There you go.
Yeah, it's just, finding the damn thing.
Yeah.
Because, trust me, that's what I spent most of my time setting up, was just looking for the mouse acceleration. Because after playing one round of zombies with Kyle, I knew the controls were, screwy because of mouse acceleration.
Yeah. Okay, what's the other game you played this week?
Well, the other game I played was Binding of Isaac Rebirth. I went back to this because I figured there was a lot of tears going around, and I was put in a bad place because of people thumping Bibles, so what better game to play?
I did say before we started recording that Binding of Isaac is your...
one of my weird comfort games.
Yeah, your comfort game, which is such a dark game. That seems so odd to say, but it is for you, for sure. Well,
the thing is that I'm actually decent at it.
Yeah.
I hadn't played it in 8 months, or nearly 8 months, and I still was able to get pretty far with a fairly bad run. And I've only been able to really do just one run with Binding of Isaac, just because that was literally just before the podcast recording, and I had a little bit of free time to kill. Because I wanted to make sure I got... how I work is... tweets is literally the last thing I do right before we start recording. That way I could get as many tweets as I can. And I had some time before I harvested the tweets. So, it was a Binding of Isaac run. And it's one of those games that, I go back to every so often. I did something like 200 some episodes of Binding of Isaac on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, I've watched some of those, actually.
Yeah, and I don't think I've lost too much of my ability. I mean, I am rusty at it. But, like I said, I was able to get fairly far with it, just, picking up and playing it after 8 months. It's one of those games that, you don't lose your... it's riding a bike. You get back on fairly quickly. The big thing is just remembering all the damn random items. And some, are very unintuitive.
Yeah.
But maybe it's something that I'm going to do for random filler and just pick a topic for our discussion list and talk about it. Just have something in the can for whenever I don't have something else to play. It's something that I've been going back and forth on what exactly to do with that, because I do need a random filler few episodes of stuff. And that seems like a good evergreen idea,
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Okay. Well, is that all you've got?
Yeah, it was more just going back to Binding of Isaac and being able to really pick it up fairly easily once again. And it was also the first time that I played it on the DualShock 4 controller instead of my rather worn 360 pad. And it does feel a lot better with that. I'd never really noticed just how worn that poor thing is. Yeah. I should go bury it or something.
Burn
give it a nice...
give it a funeral pyre.
No, I'll build a boat, put it on the river, set it ablaze, and just cast it off. A Viking funeral.
Viking funeral. Nice.
And then probably get arrested.
Maybe.
Well, considering all the stuff that they dump in the river here, I would imagine it'll just catch the entire river ablaze. And the boat's just sitting there perfectly intact.
Oh.
Now I'm just having this image of the entire river just on fire.
So,
which honestly wasn't too far off a couple of years ago when there was a train derailment near me.
Yeah, that happened here as well a few years ago. In Knoxville, there was a train that derailed that was carrying all kinds of like chemicals and toxic waste and everything because there's a nuclear power plant in nearby Knoxville.
Oh, fun.
So there was like this blaze that burned for days. It was several days. Katie and I took a trip. We were going to visit her family, and at the time, we could fly out of Knoxville. Can't do that anymore. Got to go to Atlanta, but that's another sad story for another day. But whenever we took off, we could see just this plume of black smoke rolling off into the distance. I think I took a picture of it. I might tweet it out later if I've still got it.
For me, it was a train carrying tanker cars of crude oil.
Oh, nice.
And they derailed in the middle of a blizzard.
Oh, well.
And there's several clips online of just the tanker cars exploding. And just these giant mushroom clouds of flame and smoke. And it got into the river, and several towns had to shut down their water supplies because they pulled from the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a natural additive, right?
Yeah, oils. They're good for you. Yeah, you drink that.
Keeps you lubricated.
Absolutely.
You need plenty of lubrication in your life.
Way better than fiber. Just drink oil. Keep you lubed up. Okay, well, speaking of trains, what an excellent segue to Transport Fever. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, well, I'm going to go take a break for about 2 or 3 hours. I'll be back.
Yeah.
I'll let you go talk about this.
So, even though I said it and editing will only place it like 15 or 20 minutes ago, I did receive this game for free as a review copy from the developer. So, disclosure and all of that. I've only managed to get about 6 hours in to Transport Fever. So, these are just kind of my initial impressions and thoughts on the game so far and differences. I do intend to do a full review of this game, which will include much more than what I'm about to go into, but it'll probably take me 20 or 25 hours to put that together. Transport Fever is better in almost every single way than Train Fever. Number one, it's a more optimized game, so it runs way better on my laptop and my desktop. Even my desktop struggled to maintain 60 frames a second just because of how much processing had to go on, and it did not utilize more than 2 cores. So both of my processors, because my laptop has a pretty good processor, I've said it before, that's its only saving grace. It's got an i7, but it could only use 2 threads, and only one of those threads was really being heavily used. But now it spreads its load out pretty effectively across 3 cores. The 4th core, not pretty underutilized, but from mostly 1 core to fairly evenly spread across 3 cores is good. I mean, that's a huge improvement. and it definitely shows frame rates are way better. Everything just runs smoother. Even when you were able to get 60 frames a second, just due to the game trying to calculate things, it would cause stuff to weird out on my machine. That's no longer the case. Maybe in the late game, when it starts to get really hectic with, many lines and many different vehicles and everything, lots of movement, it might still start to freak out. But I've only managed to get to like 1875 on the game that I've played the most. But I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, it runs way better. It got a nice graphical upgrade, mostly in the form of colors. Train Fever was not a dull game, but compared to Transport Fever, it looks like just like a palette of dull grays and pastels. Transport Fever is really bright, which is nice. It's, it makes everything look cute and fun and happy instead of incredibly frustrating trying to manage this giant transport company. So it looks good, runs better, which is nice. Or it looks better, runs better. Transport Fever adds planes and boats into the mix, and as such, the map sizes are generally larger on all 3 map size settings, and typically you get a lot more water than you used to. I mean, since the maps are randomly generated, you still can get a seed that doesn't give you very much water, but in general, most of the maps have a lot more bodies of water and a lot more towns closer to said bodies of water, so that you can make more effective use of the boats. And this game is mostly boat fever for me so far. I love using shipping. It's so much fun, and they're so useful because the base ship can carry 50 items of cargo, and it's super cheap. It's like $200,000 for 50 units of cargo, which to do that with a train, you would need to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. Boats are a little bit slow, but they make up for it in bulk and the cheap price, so that's good. There's been some really big changes to the core gameplay mechanics outside of just boats and planes, though. It originally used what did they call it? A continuous demand system, which meant that towns had a basic demand for goods, and this is in Train Fever, and you had to meet that demand by providing them goods, and then the supply chain for the goods would ramp up, so you would have to provide goods that didn't exist in order to get supplies to make the goods so that you could provide them. It was really weird and kind of stupid and kind of broken. It was really difficult to make use of main cargo lines because they were very dependent on transport time to make sure that the town actually got them when they needed to. Otherwise, the town would just stop asking for the goods, and then you would drop production, and making significant changes to your routes could sometimes destroy the whole route, even though it should make you more money because you're able to provide more goods to more towns. It was really complicated. I mean, there were ways around it, and if you played the game, you kind of learned how to deal with it, but Transport Fever does away with all of that. Now, there are tiers of goods. There's your basic production materials. There's a couple of mid-tiers that are mostly intermediary products, but a couple of those can be delivered directly to towns for money. And then there's your top-level products, which get delivered to towns. And it no longer depends on delivery time in order to make the goods. You basically do all of that yourself. So that takes a lot of pressure off of you to keep lines moving really fast. So you can utilize slower lines and make them more efficient and still be incredibly profitable, which is nice. But it does get incredibly complicated because used to, you had 4 different types of supply goods which were used at the different factories on the map to create the general product of goods, which you just deliver to towns. And now you have something like 15 different things that you can produce, and then you have to shuttle some of those products around to other factories to produce other things. So, I mean, this isn't unheard of for a transportation and management game. It's just hugely different from Train Fever. And it took me a while to get used to it because I was in this Train Fever mindset of like, okay, I have to make these very small, very profitable production lines in the beginning before I can expand. And really what you need to do in this game is to create hubs where all of your base level resources go to, and then you can send those resources out to the correct factories, bringing those goods back to the hubs, and then send those to the towns. And it just takes a little bit to get used to if you've played Train Fever like I have for 100 hours. Other major changes that are really, 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 really good is that you no longer have to specify. You can, but you don't have to specify what type of goods goes into every cargo container that you have. For example, with railroads or with your train cars, you have like a stake car, for example, which is used to haul logs and then cut timber. Whereas before, you would have to have chose on the stake car to haul either logs or actually they couldn't haul goods. So box cars can haul different types of products, and it's all done automatically. You can choose what you want it to be, but if you just send a train or a truck or anything from station to station, it will use logic based on how you set your groups up to be like, okay, so I've gone from the oil rig, so I'm picking up oil, I drop it off at the production facility, crude oil. Now it's been refined into gasoline, so I can take this gasoline over here to this other factory that's making plastic, or to the town to be used as fuel. So it does all of that on its own, which is amazing, because that means that you can more efficiently run your lines, because you don't have to be like, okay, well, this train can pull 10 cars. I have to have 5 of them for this thing and 5 of them for this one. No, you just use 10, and it'll automatically swap out what's on the train. So that's really good. And that's pretty much as far as I've gotten. Like I said, I haven't gotten past 1875. I must have started like a dozen games at this point. It does have a tutorial mode, which is nice, but you can't skip to the specific tutorial that you need. You have to play them in order, which kind of sucks because I only really cared about learning about ships and planes, and those are like the last tutorials. And then it has a campaign mode, which is really just like a challenge mode. You're given a scenario. There's 14 different scenarios, 7 for the American vehicles and 7 for the European vehicles. And it'll be like, deliver X number of cargo to this place by this year. And you just have to make that happen. I've done a couple of them. They're all right. I prefer just the free play mode myself. Just doing my own thing. So far, I really like it. I've not really got any major problems with it. The only negative that I have for it is that in Train Fever, you had a cargo view that would show you where your cargo was going. And that doesn't exist in Transport Fever. I think it's because, one, the huge change in the cargo system. Cargo can no longer automatically be delivered to towns without your intervention. And also, like I said, there's like 15 different types of production materials and goods now. It'd be really difficult to keep track of all of them. But I still wish they had it. That's all, folks.
Oh, what? Oh, sorry.
Delicious hot beverage.
We're actually at the point where I could talk again?
Yes, that's it for Transport Fever.
Oh, all right. Well, shall we move on to our first news topic then?
Yes, let's move on to our first news topic, which is Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has issues. There's a couple, so I condensed the original title.
Yeah, the original title I kind of just threw on there, then I've kind of plowed on more on top because, I should say the PC version in particular has a lot of issues. But it seems like it's not doing too well on consoles either.
No. Specifically, though, the Windows 10 version, it was supposed to have crossplay between the other PC versions of the game. Mostly the Steam version, I assume, but...
Well, no. Here's the thing, is that we assumed that would have crossplay, but it doesn't.
I thought they said it would have crossplay.
No.
I could have swore they said it would have crossplay between the Steam
I never
version.
heard that they said that it would have crossplay. But then again, I never really followed Call of Duty all that much, so they could have said that and I just didn't hear it.
I'm 99% positive they announced that it would have crossplay, and it didn't. And that was the main reason they're offering refunds, no questions asked, because there's no player base on the Windows 10 version.
Well, to be fair, there was 2 people playing.
That's fair. There were 2 people playing the game at one point.
Just Microsoft. Well, this isn't Microsoft's doing, but yeah, it's Microsoft. What the hell are you doing with the Windows Store in general?
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is that I know the Steam version uses Steamworks for its matchmaking, and because this is 2016 and we can have actual servers instead, we do peer-to-peer everything because that doesn't cause issues at all.
Never at all.
We have no servers whatsoever, so it's all comes down to the matchmaking that you have built into these various services, and it's just I think the Windows one uses the the new version of Xbox Live or the Xbox app to try to matchmake. But the thing is, there's like 5 people that own the game through the Windows Store because the Windows Store is an absolute joke.
Yeah.
And these 2 systems can't communicate to one another because, one, why would you want to communicate to the Xbox app when there's 5 people playing it? And it's just one of those things that, what the hell were they thinking on this?
Well, Microsoft did blame Activision.
Yeah. I'm not throwing Microsoft under the bus here. Well, I'm throwing them under the bus because the Windows 10 store sucks, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, the Windows Store does suck. But yeah, I don't know. Did
they really think that they were going to sell enough copies of this game on the Windows Store? And I'm talking Activision. That not having crossplay wasn't going to be an issue, let alone running into the problem of, okay, someone's friends buys it on Steam and they get it on the Windows Store because, they may have credit there or, they don't know about Steam or who knows what. And, not being able to crossplay. I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous that 2 versions of the PC of a PC game can't talk to one another like that.
Doing a little math. Hang on just a second. So, okay. So, supposedly, there are 400 million users that have access to the Windows Store. 1% of 400 million is 4 million. I mean, if Activision was like, maybe if we get 1% of that user base, why not? Let's put it out there. Even 0.5% would be 2 million people. Or 2 million copies sold. But, I mean, maybe from, marketing or accounting
the thing
or
is
whatever, that makes
you're
sense.
Looking at this, you're looking at this as people that have access to the Windows Store. Technically, that includes me and you because, we both run Windows 10. You against your will, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But have you opened the Windows Store other than just to mock it, to actually buy a game on that service?
I open it and poke around every once in a while.
I've opened it and looked around, not to buy a game, but just to see what was there, really.
I've actually got...
just utterly laughed at the top games and having, I would say, a good 75% of them being mobile ports. And not even good mobile ports, like Hill Climb was the one that really stood out to me. It was like number 4 or 5 at the time.
I've actually got Forza 6 installed. I just never go play it because I have to open the Windows Store. I mean, what I was saying though, I was going to say, from an accounting or a marketing or a businessman behind a desk standpoint, they're like, oh yes, 1% of this user base, even if we're only able to capture 1%, that's a huge number. But they don't think about it from the perspective of the people who are going to be playing these games don't buy things from the Windows Store because we know it's trash. We buy things from Steam or Origin or GOG or, a myriad of other distribution platforms that are way better than the Windows Store.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that this gets back to what we were talking about last week, that the suits don't know what the hell they're talking about when they try to talk about the average gamer.
Yeah.
Because they look at the pure numbers and think, yeah, well, there's plenty of people here. There's over 400 million that have access to the Windows Store. But yeah, the difference between access and actively using is vast, especially for the Windows Store.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to look at it this way, there are 7 billion people that have technically access to Steam because they could get to a computer some way. That doesn't mean that there's 7 billion people using Steam.
Yeah. Although a lot of people do use Steam, it's not 7 billion, though.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the order of, highest active, I think, has been 13 million. 13 or 14 million.
Yeah.
And that's during the holiday sale, which, by the way, that has been leaked the date of.
Oh, it has? I did not see that.
Yeah, that was on the docket.
It's always around Christmas. It's not like it's that much of a surprise.
Yeah, it's December 22nd, I believe.
Yeah.
And the autumn sale is also there as well.
Oh, that reminds me. I forgot to put something on the list, but it's going to come later in the show, but you just reminded me not to forget something that's going to be really fun.
Oh, boy. I'm not sure if I like the sound of that, but
no.
Since we're quickly bringing that up, November 23rd to November 29th is the autumn sale, and December 22nd to January 2nd is going to be the winter sale.
Nice. Better get some of them Steam. Better get some Steam wallet cards. Sell some trading cards. I haven't done a trading card sale in a while.
Yeah, that's what I'm in the middle of.
But this is really good. This is going to be a lot of fun, and
boy.
It's not weird. It's
Jared, this is from you. Of course, it's going to be weird.
No. It involves. Okay, I'll give you a little hint. I've told you before that my mother plays WoW.
Oh boy.
So, we'll. That's your hint. Be thinking about that, listener. Anyways, you have anything else to say, or are you ready to move on to our next news?
It's more just pointing and laughing at this one particular subsection of this news point. And the fact that they're offering refunds because nobody's playing the fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. And actually makes it so that if you're only interested in the single player, buy it on the Windows Store, play the single player, and then refund it.
I was going to say, this makes me really tempted to actually do that because I don't care about Call of Duty multiplayer. But I probably won't.
Yeah, that is rather scummy.
It is. But we will move on to our next news topic, which is Steam has updated their storefront.
Well, I wasn't quite done with Infinite Warfare.
Oh, all right.
No, I said a subsection because they also are suffering very low sales.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, you're skipping ahead on me again.
I didn't realize that you were gonna go
Well, I even went to the trouble of preparing numbers for this.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then let's just ixnay on that thing I said before. Let's talk about this. Bring your preparedness.
Okay. Just to give you an idea of how low the sales numbers are for Call of Duty Black Ops. Call of Duty Black Ops, comparing it to Infinite Warfare. I got the Steam chart numbers here for it. And I think it's fair to say that, the Steam chart isn't going to be a good indication of just roughly the numbers that you saw for these particular games on PC.
Yeah.
Granted, this is only consecutive players or at a time. It's not, their total sales, but it does give you a good idea. Call of Duty Black Ops, its all-time peak player count is 63,681. All right. Okay. Which I'm trying to find it on here, and it's actually beyond where I could search, which is a little annoying on that. So it's I would say it's pretty safe to say that it's either launch day or launch weekend player count. I would be fairly confident saying that. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Without cheating, how many players all-time peak would you say Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has had? And granted, we are only a few days into the launch, but it's already on its downward turn, so I would say that we've already hit its peak.
Well, I know that Call of Duty traditionally is not very popular on
Yeah, it's not.
Steam.
It's not a popular PC game. It's more of a console.
You said 60 what thousand?
63,681.
I would guess 15 to 20,000.
15,000 all-time peak, and it has already dropped off to 9,000 as its 24-hour peak. And it's literally just launched.
Yeah.
Those are abysmal numbers, and it's not just the PC version that's showing some very low sales numbers. There's been some reports that the console version, the physical version in the UK, is showing at least a 50% drop-off from last year's version. Granted, this is the collector's edition, if I recall the article correctly. But it is still showing a massive drop-off. And I'm starting to think maybe it's time for Call of Duty to take a break.
Well, I think Call of Duty has been losing numbers year on year, every year for the last several years.
Well, I actually looked at this. When was the last year that there was not a Call of Duty?
Oh, God.
Now I'm going to really make you think.
08?
Nope.
What was the last year that there wasn't a Call of Duty?
04.
Really?
That was the break between Call of Duty 1 and Call of Duty 2.
Dang.
Past Call of Duty 2, there has been a Call of Duty game every single fucking year to present.
Man. I mean, they've
need to pull an Assassin's Creed, and they need to take a break.
They've been losing numbers. I feel like Call of Duty has really tried to innovate within their own series.
Yeah.
Advanced Warfare was a good step.
Advanced Warfare has done a lot to try to make it fresh again, but there is such a thing, and we've been accused of this quite a bit, of beating a dead horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which we may be doing a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have, like I was saying, they have tried to innovate. I think Advanced Warfare was a step in the right direction. I haven't played Infinite Warfare, but I feel like it is also another step in the right direction. I think a big problem they had, though, is that we had 3 back-to-back
sci-fi, two major sci-fi shooters and then, within 2 weeks of one another.
And then 3 back-to-back, major shooter franchises. And, I mean, they've just cannibalized one another.
Yeah, I think I would do Call of Duty and Battlefield a good step of good if one of them gets out of lockstep with the other.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, who blinks first?
Yeah.
Because if you say you're going to take another month to work on your game and push your release to, let's say, early December, then you're, giving an advantage to the other guy. So, it's that whole thing of people are willing to wait a week, but are they willing to wait a month?
Yeah.
And then you're getting Titanfall 2 in the mix as well, which is also a sci-fi shooter, but a different vein of shooter, but it's also very Call of Duty-like, only with giant freaking robots in it.
Yeah.
So it really seems like the FPS genre is just cannibalizing itself in general. And these low numbers really support that.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I would like to see, a break. Aren't there 3 separate studios that work on Call of Duty games?
Well, I was looking at the list, and there's been 2 major ones with Sledgehammer only popping up recently.
Okay, yeah. It might do them some good to drop one of the developers, introduce a little bit of a break between their games. I'm sure that they've already got a couple of games in the works that they probably don't want to cancel, but I mean, they're going to start bleeding money if they haven't already.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you could only pump out so much at a time before you start seeing diminishing returns. and Call of Duty has gone 12 years without a break.
Yeah.
Well, 12 or 13. It depends on when you really count that. But yeah, it's such a daunting thing to look at that list and see they haven't missed a year since 2004.
Do it, Call of Duty. Assassin's Creed's doing it. Hopefully it does the series some good.
Honestly, at this point, it can't hurt because if you're not at the point where you're bleeding money, you have to be close.
Yeah.
Because I've all heard nothing but abysmal sales across the board for Call of Duty, most recent release, and the sales downturn just in general hasn't been pretty. As a matter of fact, hang on, let me go look, see what the previous one was. Let's see, which Call of Duty would that be?
Advanced Warfare. Wait, no, Black Ops 3.
No, Black Ops 3 was last year's. I'm talking the one before Black Ops 3.
Oh, then yeah, that would be Advanced Warfare.
Okay. Let me call that number up and we'll see. Let's see, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. This has the multiplayer, which is sitting at 35,000 all-time peak. So Black Ops 3 was a huge upturn.
The Black Ops series has probably been the most successful COD series.
But then again, Call of Duty Black Ops was also a combined thing. It wasn't a split like the other one was. At least I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a multiplayer-only version for that. So, yeah, I did see an upturn for Black Ops 3, at least on Steam, for most players at one time. But it's also, it's just one of those things that, are the numbers lying on this just because, yeah, does Steam Chart have those older numbers? Because that's going back 2 years, and I'm not sure when Steam Chart really started collecting data.
I think Steam Charts has been around for a few years. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like I heard them several years ago on the old co-optional. So,
yeah, I'm just wondering about that data because, yeah, that is a weird number. No, but that's we're diving a little bit more into that, but that's what I really wanted to talk about was just the low numbers for Infinite Warfare, considering how far it's fallen already.
Yeah, the question is how well is it doing on consoles?
Yeah,
that's its
that's
primary platform, thing. You know, and there's no way for us to get those numbers. Activision just has to release them.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I'm looking at it on the Steam Master Chart now, they're currently playing. It is sitting right between Brawlhalla and Mount and Blade Warband.
All right.
To give you some insight onto this, there's more players playing Borderlands 2, Total War Warhammer, which should have been Total Warhammer, by the way. There's more players playing Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Or if you want the most damning one, there's more people playing Farming Simulator 17.
Well, Farming Simulator is a very, very engrossing game, unlike Call of Duty. But what is that?
Especially with these numbers. I'm just... Dishonored 2 doesn't have that many players going on right now. What are some things going on there? Well, it's that's... Oh, wait. That's the pre-order bullshit. Play it a day early, isn't it?
Probably.
Because I just noticed that Dishonored 2 is way below Call of Duty. And it's like, yeah, that's weird. Then I realized, oh, it's that extra day. That's how many suckers are playing right now. Is that mean?
Nah.
Okay, I was just checking. Okay, now we can move on.
All right, let's move on to our second topic. Wait, no. Yeah, second news topic. Steam updates their store page and some other stuff.
Yeah, it's mainly the store, main store page, and also they finally updated their curator system so I could thumbs down particular games, which also means that we need to get off our asses and actually work on the curator.
One thing at a time, my friend. One thing at a time. But yes, we do need to do that.
The big thing for the store page is, it ties into the last week and actually the question of the week for this week. They're showing a lot more screenshots of games, which is just glorious looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you an idea of exactly what you're getting into. And this is why they're pushing a lot more for screenshots instead of, just art.
Yeah. I really like the store redesign in general. I like
it still has a lot of wasted space. That's one thing. That's the big thing for me, is that it wastes so much space.
It is wasting a lot of space. But I think that's because
we're running at higher resolutions.
At higher resolution. Because whenever I look at the store on my laptop, which is only 1600 by 900, there is less wasted space. So I think that they designed. I mean, I think they're making better use of their space than they did, and then they intentionally just left white space,
or blue in this case.
Oh yeah, blue space. But I mean, I like it. I like what they've done. I like the game banner that's up at the top now, and then the featured and recommended. I like how that there are screenshots, and it tells you why it recommended the game to you more clearly. I think you could always see that, but it was kind of like obscured. And now it's the whatever game it is. Then you've got several screenshots that you can just mouse over to see what the game looks like, and then it tells you how much it costs and why it's recommending it to you.
Yeah, and it doesn't show all of these, but it's also showing me a lot of older games now for some reason. For the featured and recommended, it's like they combine two areas, in which they may have.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's making use of tags now, because I've got several older games and even some games that are on my wish list.
Well,
that
here's
I've never
a good example.
Before.
Mount and Blade, recommended to you because you played games with RPG, strategy, open world, and sandbox.
Yeah.
Empire. But it doesn't consider the fact that I have Mount and Blade Warband, which is essentially the same game.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a failing on it, is that it doesn't consider a library that much when suggesting games, but it is a step forward. I love this one. It's recommending me GTA 5 because a curator says, warning, dev admin abuse. Because I follow several curators that, the frame rate police for one, which they have to go in and fix all their things to say not recommended, or to just informational. Because the default for all the curators before was recommend this because, but now it's either recommend it, don't recommend it, or this is just information. And because I'm following a few that are this one in particular is dev abuse. It tells me about game devs that have been naughty, and that I may want to avoid their games. But because they haven't updated their curator, it's still recommending, which is a little bit weird. But that's just more of, that's the old system compared to the new one.
Yeah. I'm sad that they didn't really do anything to change the recommendation system. But I don't know how many people actually use it. Or, not the recommendation, the discovery queue.
Yeah. What they really need to do is figure out a way for libraries to be organized without having to go and manually doing it.
Yeah, just some basic
there are
default.
There are third-party programs that allows you to organize by some tags, but they already have the tag system in, and it works for the most part. Granted, you do get children's games with psychological horror or that sort of thing, but that's a good way to start. Is just use the tag system.
Yeah, that would be a great idea to start.
And it's been suggested multiple times, and they just haven't done it. The client needs an upgrade now, most desperately. The store was okay. I don't think it really needed this update just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I do like some of the features, like being able to just see what the game looks like without having to go to the thing, and be able to actually add it to your wish list. Not interested, or just change your general preferences without even going to the store page. So that's really nice as well. But it's just the Steam client needs an upgrade big time.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really have anything else to say.
It's just that this one's more just informational. Hey, the store page is changed, and go poke around at it if you haven't already.
Let's take a very short break. I have consumed all of my tea, and
need to go deposit it.
Yes, I do. So I'll be right back.
All right, then I'm going to go get water.
All right, back from a bathroom break, on to the next news topic. Project Scorpio will play UWPs at 4K.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of my reaction to that. I'm like, well, honestly, the Xbox One seems to... I mean, they're still using, obviously, lots of marketing stuff, lots of... they keep talking about teraflops, and so far...
And the best pixels?
The best pixels. Best pickles? I kind of want a pickle now. But
yeah, come down to my sandwich shop. I have the best pickles.
But
just don't build a wall around it.
Hey-o. But, I mean, it seems like, based on comparing it to other consoles, hoping that all marketing words are roughly equal, I think the Xbox One has the power to do so, but I'm still incredibly skeptical.
Well, here's the thing. At what frame rate?
That's very true. Although most 4K stuff is 30 frames a second right now. You can do 4K at 60, but it requires currently some special equipment beyond just a powerful PC. You have to
some
use
liquid nitrogen, your own power station.
I think there's one...
15 pounds of uranium, and somewhere Kyle is just chuckling.
I think there's one standard or one version of an HDMI cable that can do 4K 60.
Without bursting into flames?
And then what's the other? Is it DisplayPort?
Yeah.
Yeah, DisplayPort can do 4K 60. But DisplayPort is still not... It's not a standard, so not all displays have that particular video throughput. So 4K 60 is doable, but currently it's not easily doable.
I'm trying to recall if my video card even has DisplayPort on it.
I think I have 3 HDMIs and 1 DisplayPort.
Yeah, hang on. I'm actually going to look to see what mine does. Because I don't recall it offhand. Let's see. Continue just chattering away while I go look for this, because it's going to bug me otherwise.
Well, now I have to go look too. Just editing will come in and clear the silence.
Here it is. 1 DVI-D, 2 HDMI 2s, and 2 DisplayPort. So I actually have DisplayPort on mine. And you have the reference card.
Oh no, I have 3 DisplayPorts and 1 HDMI. I thought it was the other way around. So I guess DisplayPort is starting to become more common.
Mm-hmm.
But It's still, it takes a little bit extra to do 4K 60. Anyways, yeah, I'm not convinced that the Scorpio can do it. Also, I'm anti-UWP, so I don't really like that either.
Yeah, because the UWPs are still very locked down, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're still...
Well, for a while, they were completely locked down where you couldn't even do an overlay on one.
Yeah.
And this is also, going to trust Microsoft. And honestly, it feels more like it's trying to just push their legacy software back. Push the EXE, the Windows old support back. And maybe drop it in the future.
Yeah. Part of me wants to say I can't believe that they would do that, but I mean...
This is Microsoft.
Well, it is, and honestly, technology marches on. Eventually, the EXE might become obsolete. I don't know if the UWP would be the replacement for that, but, I mean, technology does march forward, so... Even if we do eventually get rid of .exes, I don't think it's time for that. That's pretty much a standard, and standards are very hard to get rid of. So, we'll see. I suppose anything's possible. Trump won the presidency, so...
And the Cubs won the World Series.
Yeah. Cubs won the World Series. Trump won the White House. Anything's possible, folks.
Yeah. At New Year's, can we just, instead of moving to 2017, can we just say that that is 2016, get a redo on everything? Get David Bowie back to life and, everybody that's died.
That would be wonderful, but I don't think time works that way.
Ah, damn.
And either humanity doesn't develop a time machine, or there are very strict rules about going back and changing the past.
Or we're living in the bad future.
Although I suppose there's also a third possibility. Everything turns out fine.
Nah.
I was wondering if I was going to get a response. All right.
But the proof that, things aren't as bad as they seem, Uwe Boll retires from filmmaking.
Ooh, excellent segue that I just ruined.
Why can't you let me have nice things just once?
Never. Never going to do it. Yeah.
Oh, Uwe Boll, absolute joke of a filmmaker. Literally.
He made a bunch of money, though, exploiting German tax law.
Yeah, that's the reason why he was able to produce movies and not really give a damn about their quality. And what really shocks me is just how many different franchises that he made movies for.
Yeah, he made a ton of
I need to go look at his movie list again because it's rather impressive just the amount of movies that he made and big name franchises.
Yeah, I'm looking up. I currently am looking up his IMDb page.
That's exactly where I am right now. I know he did Dungeon Siege, which was fairly recent. Oh, fairly recent on his list, I should say. That's In the Name of the King. It looks like he actually did 2 of those.
Oh, he did a Far Cry movie. I didn't realize Uwe Boll made the Far Cry movie. I've seen that movie. It's not a very good movie.
Are you saying it's a Far Cry from the video game?
Hi-oh. Yeah.
Alone in the Dark 2, and Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain.
I've heard that the Blood Rain movies aren't awful. They're not great, but I've also heard that they aren't awful.
And A Broken Clock is right twice a day.
Fair play. Fair play.
So yeah, he has quite a few video game movies, and he's quitting because he thinks the market is pretty much dead. Yeah, you killed it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that he's complaining about the numbers not being there, saying that the market is dead when he's the one that has been choking it for years. He's the reason why when people talk about a video game movie, they laugh because they look at, the Dungeon Siege movie, they look at the Far Cry movie, and see just the utter crap that this guy has shat out over the years. And it's just, what the fuck?
Yeah. House of the Dead. Did you say House of the Dead?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, House of the Dead. That one is a movie that's so bad it crosses back over onto being good. House of the Dead is...
Broken Clock.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's also not a good
I'm
movie.
hoping that now that Yui Boll is going to go fade into the obscurity and go hang out with Ed Wood. And please tell me you know who Ed Wood is.
I'm shaking my head now.
Oh, Ed Wood was famous for doing very, very bad movies as well. And I'm now completely blanking on exactly what movie. A Plan 9 from Outer Space. That's what I was trying to think of, and it's like... let's put it this way. If you ever watched Mystery Science Theater for any length of time, you've seen at least one Ed Wood movie.
Orgy of the Dead. I'm on his Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen or at least heard of Plan 9 from Outer Space?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Oh, the reputation it gets is kind to it.
Nice.
It is utterly unwatchable without the Mystery Science Theater-esque commentary because, it is bad. It's so bad it killed Bill Lugosi. That's his last screen credit, and he died midway through the movie, if I recall correctly, and they had to have someone to fill in for his scenes, and they got someone that looked nothing like him. So their solution was to have the guy run around with his arm up and his cape around his face. And in practice, it did absolutely nothing to mask that wasn't Bela Lugosi. Oh. So yeah, he gets to go hang out with Ed Wood in director's hell. At least I hope so. And maybe in a few years, after people have forgotten about the abomination that was Yui Boll, we'll be able to look at video game movies as a possibility of something being actually good, and have the general public actually, accept the fact that a video game movie can be, fun.
I feel like the video game movies as a whole have been getting better over the last few years.
But you have to admit that there has been the albatross that is Yui Boll and just, bad video game movies in general.
Yeah. I think that video game movies, in my opinion, started slowly getting better with Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider movies.
Yeah.
And they've been generally trending up since then. I mean, we talked about the Warcraft movie after it released, and I thought that was an awesome movie. Not just a video game movie, but an awesome movie. So, I mean, there's definitely some smash hits a couple of smash hits, I would say, and then movies that will be coming in the future that I think will be getting better and better. It just, it takes time. It takes a while for industries to grow. But
and hopefully, having Yui Boll just slide into obscurity will be helping that.
Yeah.
Because I really do think that he's held things back.
Yeah, him and people like him.
Yeah. And honestly, the suits in general, thinking that Doom would make a good movie.
Yeah.
To give you an example, it's just there are games that would make good movies. There are stories that are strong enough that it doesn't have to rely on gameplay. But Doom is not one of them.
Yeah. I did like the Doom movie, but again, it was a so bad it's good thing.
Yeah.
We really have come a long way, though. That first-person scene, like looking at that compared to, say, Hardcore Henry. We've come a long way in that respect.
Exactly where you're coming.
Yeah. So, sky's the limit.
GoPro.
Sky's the limit. Yeah, GoPros are awesome. I considered buying one a couple times, then I go, well, what would I actually really use this for? Just put it on my head and walk around. But, I mean, people watch that sort of thing, so maybe I should. I don't know.
No. I know exactly what we need to use it for. you strap it to your kid, and you give them about 5 pounds of sugar.
No, my kid's incredibly active. He doesn't need 5 pounds of sugar to make him go crazy.
No, you give them a couple pixie sticks, and then just turn them loose in the yard. Then you pick them up a couple hours later, and you get the footage, edit it, and put it on YouTube.
That actually sounds like a really good idea. I want to do that now, but I have to go buy a GoPro.
And pixie sticks.
Pixie sticks are cheap. GoPros, those are not so cheap.
Yeah, but they're also key to the plan.
That's very true. All right. Well, let's move on to a different news topic. No Man's Sky will reveal itself to be all that it can be in time, says a Sony exec.
I saw this and I had to put it on the docket because, we had to get our dead horse out and beat it some more, especially after yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, there's more crashing sounds. Katie just knocked a pack of cookies out of the pantry. No, you're not, sweetheart. You're horrible at being quiet.
She's as quiet as a bowl of china shop.
Yeah. It's okay, though. Like I said, we all love you. Plus, editing magic will take care of some of that. That's very true. She said she's the mom. She gets to do whatever she wants.
Yeah, especially if she wants to join us about talking about No Man's Sky.
She doesn't know anything about No Man's Sky. Yeah, so, I mean, this is not really a news topic. It's just like a...
This is more
sort of
just sitting in awe of a Sony exec trying to spin this into something good.
The No Man's Sky subreddit now has a stickied counter of how many days it's been since we've heard anything about No Man's Sky. And they don't include the tweets and stuff that revolve around the hack. It's like specifically relating to game stuff. And it's like it's been 84 days, I think. We just head over to the No Man's Sky subreddit.
I have to wonder, by the time that that's assuming that they even are working on a patch, because part of me thinks that Sean Murray, he just took the money, ran to the Bahamas, and is now snorting cocaine off of a hooker's taint.
Not the best place to snort cocaine.
Well, like I said last week, he gets nervous when he doesn't smell shit.
So day since Sean Murray last tweeted about the game, 82. And I guess by the time this releases, it will be 84.
Yeah, it's... there's a lot of people just feeling like they have been suckered. And then, just completely abandoned. And I can't blame them for feeling that way, just because of how this company has, gone completely radio silent when they were going rah, 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 literally up to the day of release. Well, I've tweeted out that picture of what radio silence looks like, and it was all the tweets from Sean Murray's account, and then just this huge drop-off. That was a couple months ago now, so it would be even longer now. It's just one of those things that... this is a trick that they could only pull once, in my opinion. I don't think that even the general gamers, after seeing how No Man's Sky has been treated, and just its launch state in general, will trust Hello Games again. Or Sean Murray again. I think he is going to be a pariah when it comes to the video game industry. He's going to be... I shouldn't say he's going to be. He's been talked about in the same breath as Peter Molyneux, and that is not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Especially when Peter Molyneux is making news stories for not hyping his games.
Yeah. So, I think I said a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, that I thought that that they would release whatever that patch was or that content update was that they promised, and then they would never do anything else with the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure of that anymore. We'll see.
You're not sure if there's going to be a patch at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's going to be one at all anymore. Like, just kind of like the counter on the website and everybody talking about it, like, put it into perspective for me. It's like, I did not realize that it had been that long with no contact and that long with no context or anything. It's like, I don't think that will be the case anymore.
Yeah, but
I just am not sure.
If you want to see something amusing, go watch this Sony exec try desperately to spin this into a positive. That Hello Games is going to turn this around. That they're going to make No Man's Sky be all that it can be. Which I wasn't aware that they were joining the army. Nice pun. It's just the amazing that the amount of spend, and I really don't. I certainly hope the Sony exec doesn't believe this because he is fucking delusional if he does. And the thing is that Sony is the ones that were really the engine behind a lot of the hype. Yeah, getting them. If No Man's Sky didn't have Sony behind them, they wouldn't have gotten half the press coverage that they did. Do you think that's fair?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, sure, they would have gotten some attention just because of how expansive the game seemed. Well, I shouldn't say seemed. I mean, it is an expansive game. The problem is that there's no depth to that expanse. There's just no meat on the bones. And Sony opened up a lot of doors that otherwise would have been closed to them. And I want to say that they bear some responsibility, but it's really coming down to who to blame at this point.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we're wrong. That Sean Murray hasn't skedaddled with all the money and is just snorting cocaine off hookers' taints. That he's actually working on a patch, along with the rest of the company. But this radio silence is not helping.
No, it's not. Making it worse.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next topic.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yep. RimWorld has sexist code, apparently.
Yeah. Did you read the article?
I skimmed through it, but you had told me, you read all the things.
That was the bullet points, and then the author goes more in depth. And I realized that. Well, I should say this beforehand because it's very clear, especially from the author, that my opinion doesn't matter because I have a confession to make. For 33 years, I've been in possession of a penis.
You're cis male scum.
So that means that my opinion does not matter to this author, at least from the tone of this article, because this is what is called a hit piece. Because they wrote this purely to drag RimWorld through the mud. Yeah. There's no other way around it.
I'll let you lead. I mean, I have some things to say, but since you know infinitely more about RimWorld than me, I'll let you lead this one.
I mean, it's not like I have 71 hours in RimWorld already.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah, I want to get the actual bullet points here. And then we'll start diving into other things. And actually, the response to these points from the developer, because RimWorld is a single-person project. So here's the bullet points that they have. All right. Men are about 8 times as likely as women to try to start a romance.
Do you want me to respond to each one as we go?
Yeah, respond to each one.
That's probably a little bit high, but follows the norm in our society. Men are expected through gender and societal norms to be the ones who start relationships. That makes perfect sense to me.
And also, I should say before we go too much further that the developer has said that the author of this article read the code wrong in several ways. and was interpreting things that were stopgaps as, for particular behavior as malicious.
Yeah. Also, I was going to say at some point during this article, but I guess I probably should say it now before we go any farther. Like, some of the things, that's exactly it. Some of the things might seem a little weird or a little negative, but that's only if you don't take into context, like, he's designing a game. You have to have certain amounts of logic and rules to govern things. And eventually, you've got to have a cutoff point.
And also, this is an early access game. This is a very rough system.
Yeah, it's a work in progress that is tweakable.
So, next up on the bullet points. Pawns with disabilities will always be found to be less attractive.
Now, let's just take a minute to think about whenever you see someone watching the street, or walking down the street, dear listener. If they have a disability, physically, do you find them less attractive? Some of you are going to want to say, and maybe even rightly so, no, I really don't focus on that. And if that's really the truth, good job. You're a better human being than most of the rest of us. That's human nature. We find disability, both mental and physical, to be less attractive.
Well, that is one sexy wheelchair, though.
There are huge drop-offs in relational satisfaction. We've studied this for years and years. Whenever a partner, or one partner in a relationship, for example, has like an accident, and they suffer some major burns or an injury such as an amputation, there's drop-offs in relational satisfaction because their partner is now less attractive to them physically, and that goes both ways for men and women. That's just human nature. Does it suck? Probably, but it's not sexist or bigoted. It's just people.
And also, this is a stopgap to prevent, pawns from trying to romance people that are currently unable to move or talk. Like you just took a major blow to the head or unconscious.
Or dead.
Well, hey, that is being... I'm sorry, I'm just kind of... just this whole article just has me just flabbergasted. But how dare you not consider the living impaired?
Well, I find the living impaired to be incredibly unattractive. I
particularly after a month or two?
Especially after a month or two. I do a lot of things. I'm into a lot of stuff. Necrophilia is not one of them.
Okay. So, necrophilia to clowns, definitely out. Got it.
Definitely out.
All right. Beautiful pawns are always considered vastly more attractive. Ugly pawns, vastly less. Physical beauty is the only trait that governs attractiveness aside from sexual orientation.
All right. Human nature. The first part of that, human nature. People who are considered beautiful, obviously more attractive. Just human nature. Second part of that, probably just a game design thing. It's like, how complicated do you want to make this system? Humans, living, breathing humans, there's a lot more to a human than just the way that they look, and obviously relationships you learn and grow, etc., etc. But video games, you've got logic, AI logic, game, routines and everything. The more complicated
plus
you make
also,
the system, the more impossible it becomes to work.
Yeah, plus also, does it really need to be there for RimWorld to have, well, I'm attracted to him because he's a good shooter and I really like shooters. Or, they made a sculpture of me. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go with this?
Right.
Which maybe it'll be added in a future patch. I don't know. So let's see. Straight men always find men unattractive. Gay men always find women unattractive. There is no bisexual men, which I'll cut in here and say that this is actually a bug in the system here.
Okay.
Because this particular point was directly addressed by the developer.
Right. In response to that, just the statement or the fact of it is what it is. That sucks. Yeah, maybe a little bit sexist, but developer came out, says it's a bug. That's not how the system is supposed to work. So there you go. He's trying to fix it.
Let's see. Women may find women attractive. Gay women always find men unattractive. Or only bisexual or gay women. I
assume that this is how that the version is, the system is supposed to work for men.
Yeah, but also the developer said that this is a naive reading of the code. That it's a small chance that a woman could enter a homosexual relationship without the gay tag, if I recall correctly. It's not, women always find other women attractive.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing to see here. Move along.
All men consider partners aged 20 to their own the most attractive. If they're under 20, they find pawns 20 or over most attractive, with no regard for pawns that are of a similar age to them.
That is gender norm. That's what men do. Studied
How
it for decades.
dare they be gender norms?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I feel like for game mechanics, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you don't want to have two kids in a relationship, two people under 20, and then preferring women that are younger than them if they're over the minimum threshold, which would be just like a logic gate. Mm-hmm. If they're past that, it's normal for men to prefer women that are younger than them.
Okay, all women consider partners the same age and older the most attractive. Partners slightly younger than themselves are very unattractive. And partners that are 10 years younger than them always considered unattractive.
Gender norms. Nothing to see here.
Oh, damn these gender norms.
I mean, that's what we see in society. And honestly, in that respect, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like who you like. And typically women don't.
Yeah, this is starting to sound like this person's complaining about nothing.
Yeah.
Let's see. All men consider any pawn 15 years older than themselves to be unattractive.
Pretty gender norm.
Pretty much the norms, but maybe slight chance if they're, that they would find one. But
yeah, I mean, they're.
But remember, this is also a very basic system.
I'm trying not to condemn it in areas because, I mean, we do see the norm that men prefer younger women or at least women closer to their own age. But I mean, men are more likely to have relationships with older women than women are to have relationships with younger men. So, but again, it's a system, and the more complicated you make the system, the more complicated, the more chances you have for bugs and things going wrong.
Yeah, so. And also it just starts bogging down the system.
Yeah, I don't see
focus may be put elsewhere.
I don't really see an issue with this. Like maybe you could be like, oh hey, if it's possible for you to change that without destroying everything, it might be worth putting some effort into, but not creating a rage article. This game is sexist and awful. Thing,
yeah. Well, there's a line later on that I want to really. It kind of tells you exactly where this author's coming from, but we'll get to that. There's one more. There's no old age cutoff for women. No matter how much older the partner is, the women will have some chance of finding them attractive.
Yes, that is life. Again, following the whole gender norms thing. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Okay, here's the line that really got me. This is good ways down the article. The problem with this model isn't that it's flawed. It's that it's flawed in a way that perfectly mirrors existing sexist expectations of romance with such a specifically that it is hard to view it as unintentional.
So, this game tries to emulate real life as we know it right now. And that's awful because patriarchy. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Don't forget, it's sexist because it mirrors real life. There's a reason why, if you pay attention to my show notes that I write, you may notice that our sources tend to fall into, a very narrow list of websites and avoid sites like, let's pick one at random, Rock, Paper, Shotgun, which is where this article originates from. And it's articles like this is why I started avoiding Rock, Paper, Shotgun.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't go to Rock, Paper, Shotgun for anything ever.
Yeah, well, let's just put it this way. The show notes is going to be linking to an archive copy of this article. And here's where it really gets me, all right? The very, very ending of this. The editor's notes. The developer was contacted for an interview as part of this article, but it was declined to take part unless we ceded editorial control over the publishing of that interview. We do not cede editorial control to developers or interview subjects, so no interview took place.
Nice.
You know what that means?
Yeah, that means that he didn't want them to create a narrative that supported them.
Yeah, he read, he saw this hit piece, and he wanted his words unedited in his interview, and they refused. As a matter of fact, the developer is in the comments of this article as well. Tyrion Sylvester, it's the second comment on here if you want to read it. Because we are going to really go into his response in just a moment, and from a different source. He said that when he said that he didn't want his words edited, he wanted an unedited interview, they completely dropped contact from him. They didn't even tell him no. They dropped contact. Games journalism, everyone. Games journalism.
Yep. Oh... sad day.
Okay, so let's go to the response that he put on the subreddit for RimWorld. Some notes on recent controversies. RimWorld defines strict gender roles. RimWorld scarcely defines genders at all. In RimWorld, males and females are almost entirely identical physically and behaviorally. They fight the same, they cook, build, craft, and clean the same. They have the same kind of emotional breakdowns in similar situations, and the same things affect their mood in the same way. They spawn in the same roles of trader, pirate, drifter, ally, and enemy with the same mixes of skills. The only asymmetry is the possibility of attempting romance interactions. But even there is no strict gender roles. Women propose to men and hit on them, and so on. Women do all the same behaviors as men. The only difference is that the game applies the same priority factors to romance and attempts to based on the character doing the behavior. That's it. Every character can do everything behavior, except in one case, which is being fixed for the next version, which is meaning the by men. So it's simply wrong to say that there are strict gender roles in the game. Well, there you go. Mic fucking dropped. It just... What is the entire point of this article is what I'm really wanting to get at, outside of trying to shame a developer into their own vision of what the game should be. Because that's what it really came across as to me.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just like thinking about all of this. Like, we've talked about sexism before.
Yeah, but we never really talked about it on the podcast. I'm
pretty sure we've talked about it at least once.
Not in this in depth. An article titled "How RimWorld's Code Defines Strict Gender Roles." I mean, we haven't been this laser pointed at the issue. I mean, we've talked about it a couple times, but not directly.
RimWorld
having a center stage.
RimWorld has given me, ever since the beginning, ever since we first talked about it and you made your first game, like, the character that you drew for my name was a 15-year-old lesbian. Like, when does that...
How fucking inclusive can you be?
That doesn't happen in other games. I mean, maybe a couple of other games, stuff that I'm not aware of, maybe small indie games, but, like, that just doesn't happen in popular games. I know RimWorld is not a AAA game, it's an indie game, but it has a pretty large following. And this is a game that is incredibly inclusive, incredibly progressive in what it does. treating all characters equally, minus a few specific changes that tend to follow like modern societal and gender norms, which I think is fine. I don't have a problem with that. It just like, this is a game that's doing it right, and somebody's like, oh, I don't like established gender norms, so I'm going to try and make you seem like you're sexist. You're an awful person.
Yeah, which if you start reading the comments, you start seeing people just damning the game, not even hearing what the developer has to say for themselves.
Yeah. People that don't know, don't care, just follow whatever, something says. Like, I'm not that kind of person anyways, so I don't understand that mentality. Like, every time I read something, I'm like, I want to go confirm this somewhere. I want to explore more and find out more, but...
Trust but verify.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to read his response to there are no straight women in RimWorld. Because he also kind of throws this writer under the bus. This isn't true. Though I could see how a naive reading of the decompiled game code might make it seem so. There is a very subtle point, but it's important. People tend to think of game characters as people, but they're not. They don't have internal experiences. They only have outward behaviors and are totally defined by those behaviors because that's all the player could see. And the player's point of view is the only one that matters. From the player's POV, most women in this game are straight, since they never attempt romance with another woman. A player who sees a female character who never interacts romantically with another woman will interpret that character as straight, and this interpretation forms the only truth of the game. So that character is straight. The way this is modeled in the code is just the quickest way I could think of to get the system working on that night when I wrote it 7 months ago. And it did work just as fine for all those 7 months. It's only an uninformed reading of the code inferring hidden emotions from data structures instead of reading them as probability factors that they are that has led to this condition. This goes equally for every other statement of who is attracted to whom in the game. Characters in RimWorld aren't attracted to anyone. There are no player-facing attraction metrics or statistics that the player can perceive at all. What these numbers really are probability factors on romance interactions, which is a rather different thing. Once again, he picks up the mic and just drops it again. And I think that's really encapsulates the problem that I hate to just throw the word feminist, but it tends to be who's complaining about particular issues in games. That they fail to realize that these are characters. These aren't people. These aren't living, breathing people. I remember watching a lot of stuff, people complaining about Watch Dogs, which, to be fair, there was a lot of things to complain about Watch Dogs, but there's this one scene where you go and they're auctioning off women, and they're talking about how it's sexist to these women that they don't have any sense of agency. They're fucking video game characters. They're NPCs. They don't have goddamn feelings.
Also, in that scene, they are victims of human trafficking. Essentially, slaves. Slaves don't have a sense of agency. They are controlled. Like, that is the definition of not having a sense of agency. You do not get to control your own life. And yes, that's a terrible thing, but in the story, in the game, that is what they are. It doesn't make sense for them to have a sense of agency, because then that fundamentally changes the situation and story that you're experiencing. And the developers didn't want that. I'm not saying you have to like that, you have to accept that, but you do have to realize that that is the story that the developers crafted for the game, and at the end of the day, they're just pixels. And little electrons floating around.
I'm reminded of a line from Short Circuit. It's a computer. It doesn't get happy. It doesn't get sad. It just runs programs.
Yep. It doesn't get happy or
Target
sad.
zapped by lightning.
It doesn't get happy or sad yet.
True. That's the thing. Because once true AI comes into play with video games, then we may have an issue. But for now, it's all algorithms and probability factors and all sorts of fancy terms that I would sound very impressive saying, but I'll probably be wrong in saying them. He does go into the disability one as well. Should I read that real quick, or have we hammered this enough?
I think we've done a pretty good job on it. I'm looking at the recording time, and yes, we'll cut some stuff out for our little break that we took. But
yeah, we're at 2:19 by my clock.
Yeah, and we've still got one more news topic, and then community corner and deals. So
yeah, there has to be bigger issues. I think that's what I'm going to say, is that really you're complaining that RimWorld is reflecting reality, and that's why you're complaining about RimWorld. Grow the fuck up. There, I'm done. Mic drop.
Nice. Okay, well, let's move on to our last news topic, which is Facebook announces Game Room, which has been described as a Steam-like thing for Facebook
for
games.
all your cow clickers.
Yeah. I mean,
boy, here's a program I'm never going to use.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we briefly discussed dropping this from the news topic list, but it's like, this is really big news that doesn't matter to us at all.
Yeah, exactly. This is like when we talk about Nintendo to our audience.
Yeah.
But I will say that I have seen some people talking about this, and that the program, they're not enthused by it. It has some rather nasty registry hooks that people have been complaining about. They're not saying that it's mining information yet, but it's Facebook. Come on. It's mining information.
Yeah, or it will be very soon.
Yeah, I imagine that for someone that plays a ton of Facebook games, you're not listening to this podcast.
No. I'm not sure who this service is for, really.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if someone is playing that many Facebook games, do they really... they would be savvy enough to do it on their own, I would think.
Yeah, well, the kind of people that I know who play lots of Facebook games are older people or people who aren't really interested in games at all. They just like play Facebook games to pass the time until they can chat with their friends or whatever. And it's like those people are probably not going to download a program that lets them play Facebook games without being on Facebook. And then the other side of the coin is that other gamers who play games, like us, rarely, if ever, play Facebook games. And they don't have enough interest in those games to download a program that allows them to play them. I can't even
think of the last time I played a Facebook game. I'm sure I did at one point.
I play one Facebook game. But it's not a Facebook game in it's not like Farmville or whatever. It's called Airline Manager. And you just manage an airline. It's just menus. There's no screens. It's not a bunch of clicks.
Well, you do realize Eve has gone free to play, right? You could just go do that instead.
I still have an active subscription to Eve. Last time I re-upped my subscription, I got a year. Because I knew that at some point I would go back to it, and I just wanted to have it there so that it was ready for me. But, I mean, this is really just like managing an airline through spreadsheets.
Fascinating.
It's like...
Oh, wait, no. The opposite.
And I send out flights twice a day, repair planes that need repairs, make sure my staff isn't on strike.
Make sure you pay off the FAA.
Absolutely. Buy and sell stocks from other companies. That's what, a couple times a day, if that. But, I'm not going to download an app for that. I just go on Facebook, ignore my notifications, send out my planes, and then close it. Which is literally what I just did while I was talking about it.
Yeah, This almost reminds me of Facebook buying Oculus, and where are they going with that?
Yeah.
Because it's just such a weird, contradictory to their current market. Because Facebook is all about just getting people onto their page, and killing time there, and getting all their information to sell to advertisers. Yeah, much like Google.
Yeah. So I feel like we should probably mention it because it's big news, but it's like, I don't know who this relates to. Maybe that's an interesting question. I know it's not the question of the week, but hey guys.
It would be the question of the week if we didn't have the whole thing with the game club going on.
Yeah, but we can ask I can ask a general question. Hey everybody, do you play Facebook games? Let us know. Send us a tweet. Send us a letter. Post it in Discord.
Speaking of which,
yeah, let's move on to our weekly community corner. Nice segue there, Rach. Not your strongest segue, but hey, I'll take it.
And then completely ruin it.
Absolutely. I can't let you have nice things. Let's see. Let me go double check Gmail real quick to make sure we didn't get anything while we were recording. I don't think so, but my phone's on silent, so...
No, I don't see anything here.
Okay, so we have got 1/3 of an audio letter. And then tweets and the question of the week. So,
yep.
Groove's audio letter, though, the part that we're going to use has to deal with question of the week. So do you just want to go to question of the week?
Yeah, that probably isn't a bad idea. Question of the week last week was, do you think Valve's new screenshot policy will make a difference? And I'll go ahead and read the one response that we got on Twitter. A.G. Scott said, yes, Valve's screenshot policy will make a difference. No more Photoshop pics, warts and all gaming.
Warts and all. That's cute. I like that. Okay, well, here is Groove's 1/3 of an audio letter.
Let's instead talk about the weekly question, which was, do you think Valve's new screenshot policy will make a difference? And to be honest, I don't think so. Because although Valve sometimes has pretty good ideas, like Steam Greenlight or the curators, they don't tend to keep them alive. Also, I'm not sure if I like the policy as it is. Because after all, I did like the concept art on the store pages. Therefore, I think that a better system would be to label the pictures, whether they are in-game, in-engine, art, or whatever. Also, videos aren't affected by the policy, which means that they are still allowing to show things like the E3 trailer of No Man's Sky. So, after all, I think that the policy was a good idea done wrong.
All right, Groove, thank you very much for your 1/3 of an audio letter. For your partial whatever. You did something and it was great. Thanks. Keep doing it.
Yeah, keep making VGL great again.
But we were always great. Well, maybe that's not...
Since when?
Maybe that's not true, but we became great, and we haven't lost our greatness since we became great.
Hey, don't make me Photoshop Trump hair on our logo.
Oh, please don't do that. You could make it orange, though. I'd be okay with that. I like orange. It's a good color.
Except on a politician.
Oh, I got... Probably going to hear some funny mic noises. I accidentally wrapped up my headset cord around my lapel mic.
I know you're upset about the election, but this isn't something to kill yourself over.
I have no idea how I did that. Like, I just looked over because my dog walked past, and it was like, oh, I'm just going to wrap around your mic. It's magic. Cord magic. Like how you can fold it up real nice and neat, put it in your pocket, pull it out, and it's like just destroyed.
Well, that's just the simple fact that, it's not staying still in your pocket.
Yeah. All right.
I know, I'm ruining the magic. Since you don't let me have nice things, I'm not letting you have nice things.
That's fine.
Groove basically agreed with me saying that, Valve has a tendency of just forgetting things, getting back on topic.
Yeah. I think it'll help a little, but I do think that there will be ways around it and loopholes and sometimes it'll slide by anyways. So...
Or we'll just have companies that, won't care and put their bullshot, photos, shopped stuff up and, try to get as many sales as they can before they, go to the Bahamas and start snorting coke off hookers' taints. What?
Seriously, that's a really crappy place to snort cocaine.
Well, like I said, Sean Murray wants to feel comfortable.
I mean, how does that even work? Like, some of it's going to fall off and go in the vag, and some of it's going to fall back into the butthole. Wait. You're being very sexist here.
I wasn't implying female.
Well, I was... Touche. You win this round. Regardless, terrible place. Belly button?
Well, Sean Murray is used to being in terrible places.
Go for the belly button, the cleavage, small of the back. All good places to do drugs off.
Hey, you're lucky I didn't say the crack of a hooker.
That would be better.
But shall we get back on topic?
We can try.
But yeah, Valve has a very big tendency of just letting things to die or just not updating forever. So yeah, I agree with you because that's kind of what I said last week. So really, anything else? Do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say for yourself here?
Nope. I never have anything to say for myself.
So let's just dive straight into tweets. And for some reason, Kyle and several other people are tweeting food to our Twitter account, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, supposedly I'm supposed to know this. I have no idea. I guess forgot. Probably something I said offhanded or something like that, and it turned into food wars.
It turned into this meme, and it's been going on for days, and I'm just sitting here both confused and hungry.
Yeah, every time I see a new one, I'm like, that looks really good. I'm going to go get some food.
Except for those hot dogs from, I think it was Chemist. I'm sorry, but your wiener just doesn't impress me.
Oh, your wiener impresses me.
Kyle's wiener impressed me.
Me too.
And we're, wait, are we still talking about food?
Moink.
Anyway, I'm going to be bugging Kyle about the answer to that because I honestly have no idea. And the person that I was supposed to get the answer from has no clue, as per usual. So let's just... What?
Nothing.
Are you okay over there?
Yeah, just a little cough. I missed the cough button.
So let's just get back into the tweets. Kyle, speaking of the devil, having not listened to the podcast yet this week, I will roll the dice and say agree-a-thon. Well, I'm glad he agrees that you have absolutely no clue like usual. Chemist, now fully supporting M4A chapters. Yay, but there's no tools for adding chapters to M4A files on Windows. Not yet. Not yay. I'm assuming that he's trying to give you more work. Which, good luck with that, Chemist. It's hard for me to get him to work.
Yep, good luck.
Usually takes the poking stick. I'm waiting for the wink there.
Sorry, I'm playing with my sleeves.
Kyle, for the record, I was actually recording from I-94. I-75 is on the other side of the state from me. Which, honestly, I-75 sounds funnier.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's a nice round number.
Well,
I-94, no. I-75, yeah.
Well, I-75 runs... It is like a 20-minute drive for me. I can hop on I-75, so... It resonates for me at a local level.
So, see, now I really can't change it. And then Kyle, hang on, Rage's the drunken uncle? I think I could think of at least one of the community members that drinks more than he. Which I'm not sure what this is referencing. I'm assuming this is related to while we're having food.
Well, the drunken community member is Kyle. If you remember, he drunk called me before we did the Aki recording. So I think he's the one who drinks too much.
Yeah, but I'm not sure why I'm suddenly the drunken uncle here. I'm confused. And I did look around, and this isn't in reference to anything else on Twitter. So I'm just going to blame you. And then finally, we have a little bit of a conversation with Chemist. Sitting at a lecture, the teacher tries to use Flash to convince us that 18 FPS is perfectly acceptable. Kill me now. Instead of rendering at 24 FPS, you could render at 12 and show each frame twice. You won't be able to tell the difference.
I wonder if that would make an interesting, like, kind of slow motion effect.
It really depends on just how much of a stepping there is between the two frames, or the two different frames, I should say. Because actually, getting back to what we were talking about pre-show, a lot of anime, to cheap out on their animation, will do their animation at a 12 FPS and show the frames twice. That's why whenever you look at an intro, it often looks a lot smoother than the show itself. And that's because they do 1-to-1, a 24 FPS essentially, or drawings per second, or however you want to pronounce it, for the intro to make it look prettier.
I've never noticed that before.
Here's the thing, is that for a lot of anime, it really doesn't matter. And whenever it does matter, during big fight scenes, that's when they'll speed it up back up to, a 24.
Yeah.
Anime has, it's one of those things that it has a lot of corner cutting that you don't notice until somebody points it out to you. Like how often you'll just see static backgrounds, there's no movement whatsoever.
Yeah. I used to never notice that, and then I watched a YouTube video about about the different types of static backgrounds. And then I got to watching in the anime that I watched, and I'm like, that's a static background. They're not, or even a completely static scene.
Yeah, that's another way that they'll save money, or they'll have it where, they have very subtle animations, to try to get as close to a static scene as possible, or just reuse animation cycles.
Yeah.
Or even animation cells, having the same walk cycle. This is why a lot of anime takes place in high schools, is because they use the uniform, and you only have to draw them so many times, because then you can just start reusing scenes.
That makes sense. Now that I think about it, I think I think of places where they could be happening, doing 12 frames a second and just showing double frames. Because a lot of anime conversations, or conversations in anime, don't involve a lot of movement.
Yeah, it's usually just the mouth.
Yeah.
And anime also has it backwards with how they do lip sync, where the actors are actually matching the animation and not the other way around.
Interesting.
So that's why you see very generic mouth movement instead of more complex mouth movement like you see in Western animation, because the animation is matching the mouth movement and sounds and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Generally, I should say. There are exceptions to the rule, of course, but that's how it usually works. Welcome to the anime portion of the podcast, by the way.
Beat me to it. I was about to say welcome to the anime portion of the Video Game Logic podcast. I'm definitely... So, after we're done recording...
Yeah, I've spent too much time around you.
After... Nothing wrong with that. After we're done recording, I think I'm going to watch one episode of anime as a little break. I think episode 6 of Kaijo is up. Or Keijo. So, I'll go watch that and then start editing the podcast tonight.
I'll probably watch March Comes In Like a Lion.
Although I might not do that. I need to go take a shower and do a couple other things, and I'll just use that as my break. I don't know. I'll do something, but regardless, I'm definitely going to watch some anime.
Boy, I bet Chemist didn't expect that to devolve into an anime talk.
Yeah. Oh, also, Chemist, speaking of Keijo, I watched episode 5 before you messaged me, or before I saw the message you sent me the other day, but we can totally sync up. Although I guess not on this episode, because I'll be watching it before the podcast releases and you listen to it. Maybe for episode 7. We'll figure it out.
Well, the thing is, Keijo isn't even the lewdest anime for the season. There's worse out there.
Well, I mean, I don't care about the lewdness factor. I don't care about fan service. To me, that is not the best part of that show. If you saw my tweets before, the swath of tweets before the election tweets, I was tweeting constantly.
Yeah, it's that little
Keijo.
hope before this crash, by the way.
Yeah, I was talking constantly about Keijo, and that show is just so stupid and fun. Like it fits that ridiculously silly, quirky thing that I love about stuff, and it knows it, and it just keeps hammering at it. Like, yeah, this is stupid and stupid, but within its own world, it takes itself seriously. So it's like people are being straight faced, talking about like boobology and butt cannons,
Hypnotits
and hypnotits. It's like, oh my god, like it's amazing, so good, so good.
Maybe we should have a VGL anime night.
We could do an anime special of the podcast. Bone up on a bunch of anime and then just talk about it for however long.
I'm sure that will go over just as well as us talking about Nintendo over and over again.
Well, Chemist likes
Because
anime.
it seems like
we could have him on. I don't know if Kyle likes anime or not. Kyle, do you like anime? Let us know.
we could always tie him to a chair, force him to watch something.
Yeah. We could do an anime special.
A Clockwork Orange is treatment to him.
Oh god, have 4 people on the show. So much editing, so much. Oh, maybe that's a bad idea.
No, it's a great idea.
Oh.
I don't have to edit it.
It would be fine. It'd be fine. Although getting all 4 of our schedules together would be difficult.
I think Kyle would be the problem.
Yeah, depends on his work schedule. We should figure that out, guys. We should figure it out. Do 4 of us, all 4 of us, and see how it goes.
Who knows? We could end up with a spin-off podcast, video game logic anime podcast.
Anime logic.
That actually works.
Let's not dwell
recolor
on
the logo, give it big eyes.
Chibi.
I'm liking this.
Make it chibi. If somebody else
Paint it
wants
orange.
to edit it or start paying me a salary, we can do that. But I
thought that was the Patreon.
So add more funds to our Patreon account. I only have so much time I can do this. All right. More tweets?
Well, there's just Groove. Please tell me who that teacher is, or better, don't. Might get me into some serious issues. PC Master Race.
What is that a response to?
To Chemist's 24 FPS render at 12 instead.
Ah, okay.
And Chemist, pretty sure he just kept saying bullshit to check that we're still if we're asleep. Oh, yeah. And then they started going to the original name of The Witcher over there, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I know better now. So yeah, that's all the tweets. And if you wish to send us tweets, you could do so over to VGL Podcast on Twitter, or email us vglpodcast@gmail.com. And we don't divide all the emails that we get.
Nope.
And you don't have to send them in as audio. We do accept text letters as well.
Indeed. All right. Well, let's move on over to our Steam weekly deal recommendations. I've got 2. You have 2.
Yeah, and looking at the recommendations, it does remind me that we never did call the poll for the game club after Skyrim. So how do we want to handle that? I mean, it's probably best just to call the poll now and have it set up for when we eventually get to it.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. I actually haven't looked at the poll in like a week.
Yeah, we didn't get many responses to it at all. I'm not sure if it's just the games we had on it, if people are getting fatigued of it, which also lends to the whole problem with the frequency of the VGL game club.
Yeah.
But last time I looked, Crimson Skies won.
I'm pulling it up right now. Yep, Crimson Skies, 5 votes. Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, 2 votes. Warframe, 0.
Yeah, no love for Warframe.
War never changes. War never gets any votes.
But the reason why that reminded me of it, for Crimson Skies, I will post an Abandonware link to that when we start that game club. Because it is Abandonware now, and it's technically not illegal. If that makes any sense.
Yep, makes sense. Play Abandonware games all the time.
The reason why that reminded me was my first pick of the week is one of the games that wasn't picked, but is going to be on the game list anyway, so you should get it. It's Far Cry Blood Dragon. Basically, Far Cry 80s edition.
Right.
Not a lot to say about this one just because I haven't played it. And the reason why it's on the game club is that it is the Ubisoft Game of the Month, which means it is free.
Oh, well, I've already got Far Cry 3. Never mind. Let's see, I'm going to go get that, but I already own Blood Dragon. I've already played Blood Dragon. Still, it's a fun game. Imagine playing Far Cry 3 on
edition.
acid in the 80s. Yeah. Like, there's a giant T-Rex that shoots lasers at you. Like, what more could you want? It's amazing. Good game. Go play it.
Yeah, and like I said, it is free. Just click the link on the show notes, and it'll take you right to the page to grab it. You have a month to get this before they replace it with the final game for the Ubisoft 30th anniversary. Well, assuming that they don't get bought out or anything.
Yeah. Okay, well, my first game is Beyond Space. Beyond Space is an arcade space action shooter. It is exactly what I said it is. It's nothing too special. It's pretty fun, pretty good gameplay. It does have some weird control issues. You will spend some time if you don't have a controller or a joystick, kind of trying to figure out how to fly it with a mouse and keyboard. It is mostly negatively reviewed on Steam because the game is very buggy. So it might be a little bit of a roll of dice for you, but if you're going to have problems with the game, you'll figure it out really quickly. It's cheap and it's fun, so if you're willing to roll the dice on it and see if you have issues with your hardware configuration or something like that, I think it's worth it. Because it is just fun, kind of campy sci-fi action.
All right, which brings it back to me with Empire Total War for my last pick. Not the most popular of the Total War series, but this was the one that I spent the most time with. And this is also the Total War game that introduced naval combat. So it has its perks. I will say that the AI, it's not as terrible as it was on launch. It has seen some improvements, but it's still not great. There are player-made mods that do attempt to fix it, though, which really comes down to, do you want to support a game that relies on player-made mods to fix their broken AI? Because, yeah, I do understand if you wish you don't wish to support them like that. But this is a grand strategy game. Sort of a mix of turn-based and real-time, because the battles take place in a real-time with your units and having orders to move particular units around. And actually is very deep on the combat there. Having to come up with realistic strategies. And then the overworld is turn-based, almost Civ life-like in it, where you're managing your different cities and building up units and building your armies to try to And the campaign is to found your independence from Great Britain. Yes, this is the American Revolution, which is very timely right now. Okay, it may have been a little bit more timely in July, but still.
Okay, well.
I should say that the base game is 75% off, which brings it down to $4.99. It does have a package deal going on where you could get the Warpath campaign, which is the Native American campaign, and some units which are mostly useful in multiplayer, which I'm pretty sure multiplayer is, for the most part, dead. I'm sure that there's probably still some games going on, but by now, people that are still playing Empire Total War are the ones that are just going to kick your ass.
Yeah, that's probably a fair estimate to make. Okay, well, my second game is Battlefleet 2. Battlefleet 2 is a turn-based naval strategy game set in the Pacific theater of World War II. You can play as either side through the campaign or skirmish missions, and then the conquest mode. Conquest mode is the entire map of the Pacific Front, and you play as either Japan or the United States, and basically try and capture over everything. Campaign mode follows specific theaters from the war from each perspective, whichever side you play on. And then quick battle is just quick battle. It does have multiplayer, but the multiplayer is pretty much dead. Battlefleet 2 is actually a really good, fun game. The controls can be very difficult to learn at first. It doesn't really teach you anything very well. And it does have a bit of a learning curve trying to figure out how to specifically use its weapons, because it doesn't give you any assists. You basically have to fire a few shots to figure out your range and things like that. Lead the target
yourself?
Yeah, lead the target yourself. Fire a few shots, figure out your range, and then bear down on the enemy.
Don't tell me you just lost connection.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, I can hear you now.
Weird.
You just completely dropped off there for a moment.
Weird. Skype, I assume.
Yeah, you scared me because there's no assist. You have to... And then nothing.
Right. Editing will happen. What I said was you have to fire a few kind of ranging shots, figure out the target, the distance, how to lead them, where to shoot, all that sort of jazz. So... definitely very strategic. It's very highly reviewed. It does have very competent AI. I would hesitate to play with other players because it kind of suffers from the same thing. Like, the people who still play this game are going to kick your ass. But it would be fun to play with friends. So, normally it is $15. It's 50% off, $7.50. And those are our games, correct?
Yeah, and... we should be working on getting the curator up and running again because, we are laughably behind on that. But eventually our master list on the curator will be up to date. You can find that over at steamcommunity.com/groups/VGL podcast with our thoughts on not only the games that we picked for the sale, but the games we played recently, from week to week.
Yep. And now we move on to the portion of the podcast where I get to go first. What's going on this week? And I'm going to lead with that fun thing that I mentioned earlier.
Oh, jeez.
So the hint was my mom plays WoW. Well, my mom is getting pretty sick of WoW. She doesn't like the new expansion. And she's getting pretty bored. So we were talking the other day, and I said, well, the Steam is going to have its fall and winter sale coming up pretty soon. I built you that nice new PC a couple of months ago. Why don't we put together a list of games for you to check out, try out, and let's see if we can find you some other games, broaden your horizons. So I talked to my mom. I have a list of criteria for things that she likes and dislikes, and I told her I was going to put this up to the show and take gaming suggestions from people on the show. So here's the list. I'm pulling it up right now. Rage, do you want me to add this to the show notes so that people can see it?
Yeah, add it somewhere on the show notes. Probably add it to Community Corner. That would probably be the best place for it.
Okay. I will do that after we're done recording. Okay, so here are Mom's criteria for games. She wants a game that is story-based. She likes stories. She doesn't like guns. She likes MMOs. She likes third-person games. She does not like first-person games. She likes mystery games. She likes platformers. She likes match 3 games. She enjoys 2D side-scrollers. She likes puzzle games. And she doesn't want anything that's dark, scary, or gory.
I was about to yell Portal 2, but then you said she doesn't like first person.
Yeah. And bear in mind that my mom is a 50-something-year-old with very little gaming experience outside of World of Warcraft. So.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, if you've got anything right now, feel free. Obviously, we've got a month, not quite a month, but a couple of weeks until the fall sale, and then a little over a month till the winter sale. So
I'm basically heading through my platformer section and seeing if there's anything that jumps out.
Yeah,
pardon the pun.
My first couple of thoughts were Puzzle Quest and Puzzle Quest
Honey
Kingdoms.
Pop.
Oh, definitely not Honey Pop for my mom.
Hey, you never know.
I really doubt it.
I'm looking at my... she likes sliding puzzles. Cogs would be really good.
Cogs?
Yeah. It's a 3D sliding puzzle game.
Okay.
Because it's... Fez may work. I mean, Cogs doesn't have a story, but, it's individual puzzles. Let's see.
She's actually really interested in For Honor because she likes the medieval setting. And I was like, Mom, that game is like
Warband.
Warband?
If she likes...
oh, you mean Mount Blade?
Yeah, Mount Blade Warband, yeah. Well, Warband's usually just the short term of it, but... I would say really pointed towards a point-and-click genre as well.
Yeah, I've considered some point-and-click games. But, yep, that's open for suggestion. Feel free to stray a little bit from the criteria if you really... Except for the gory and scary, like... Don't stray from that criteria. But other things, like if you really think that there's a game like, hey, even though this didn't meet her list, like this might be one that she would like anyways because of X reason... I'll throw it up there. Maybe she will. So, yeah, that's the fun little activity. And this can be ongoing for a couple of weeks. I'll mention it on the next episode or two. And then let you know the results when we actually get to try out all the games. Otherwise, for me this week, so in the last couple of days really has been when I've gotten the majority of my voice back. That crap just lingered for so long. I mean, I would have been okay to record Saturday if my kid hadn't been, like, incredibly sick. But my voice has really come back the last couple of days. So
you gotta take care of the king.
Yeah, have to take care of the king. But, so I should have enough time, as long as something else doesn't happen and to rock my world, between now and Saturday and Sunday to get a couple of videos put together, a new review. Don't know what that is. Don't have a review going, so you'll be as surprised as I am when it comes out. But there should be a review on Sunday.
Hey, that's my lawn.
Oh, sorry, I missed the cough button on that one. Well, I'm just stealing your line. But should be a new review on Sunday. And I'm going to start putting up the Portal stuff just because it's pretty easy to edit and get thrown up on YouTube. So I'll do some of that. And then things should be back on track as long as I don't, for some reason, continue to hold this sickness in my body. But I think this is just recovery. A few years ago, I had a really, really nasty fungal infection that got into my lungs. And it's...
Coughing up toadstools?
Something like that, yeah. It was awful. But ever since then, it's really easy for me to get infections and things that settle in my lungs, in my chest. So my voice and my throat constantly, like multiple times throughout the year, I have this issue. Usually it doesn't get this bad. This is a pretty bad one, but very frequently I'm kind of like, whenever we record, I don't think anybody notices, but I'm like, man, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it without stopping to get some more tea or something like that. But I do. Anyways, not enough about me, because I have to tell you where to find me. If you want to follow me on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I promise the political tweets are done.
Bullshit.
Done for now.
Wrong.
If you want to follow me on Twitter and find out what the heck it is that I'm going to be tweeting about now, you can do so over at JMA4707. I will say that I got several Twitter followers during that. So they might leave after I stop posting about political stuff. We'll see. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, which I haven't been doing a lot of here lately because I've been sick, but Friday, so the day that this releases, we're going to be streaming probably at least part 2 of Star Wars RPG that we started a couple weeks ago.
The GM Strikes Back.
Yes, the GM Strikes Back. So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to watch that or other games that I stream, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. If you want to be my friend on Steam, chat with me, watch me play games, whatever. My Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests. I've received a couple of new friend requests from you guys. Thank you for that. Talk to me.
And if you want to let me know exactly which episode you're coming from, the password for this week is Balderdash.
Excellent
Balderdash.
Balderdash.
And could you figure out where I've been inspired for that one?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it may have something to do with that article that we read earlier. Bunch of Balderdash.
Indeed. But enough about me. More about you. That would be the gentlemanly thing to do. What's going on for you, Rage?
Well, I missed the Sunday Sampler, which you may have noticed that I didn't talk about, just because I got sick on Friday, just a little bit of a stomach thing. And it kind of just threw off my sleep cycle to the point where I was just napping. And by the time I felt like actually recording, it was something like 2 a.m. Sunday morning. And I decided that it's probably best to not try to just throw something completely random together. I mean, don't get me wrong, I tried, and I didn't have a lot that I got in the week anyway. And the game that I tried, it was windowed only, and it was less than 720p resolution. And it's like, no, you are not worth my time. I'm just going to skip a week, spend some extra time on a secondary episode again, and do another doubleheader at some point. I may or may not do another visual novel. I'm not sure yet. I seem to got a lot of views for that. Granted, that may have been the rather clickbaity thumbnail I used for that, but well, you watched that. What did you think of the video?
I thought it was really good, especially for somebody who's not typically a visual novel person.
I actually have read several visual novels. I just don't talk about them that often.
Yeah, fair enough. It was still, it was good. It was interesting. I liked it. I would love to see more of that on your channel, but obviously, it's your channel. You do what you want.
It's also, that video is the most I spent on a Sunday Sampler just because I have to play through an entire storyline of it, then go back, do some recording of the gameplay itself. Then it wasn't a complete script, but it was more bullet points and just rambly and edit that all together.
Right. I do that sometimes for stuff.
Yeah, even recording-wise, it took me a lot longer than usual. So yeah, I ended up not doing the Sunday Sampler, which means that I'm going to double at some point again because I like catching up with that, and it allows me whenever I get a game or a couple games in 1 week that is worthwhile to do them both. So there is that. I'm going to be missing Portal 2 for this week. Well, if you're paying attention, you've already seen that I have filler content going for that because Jared had to take care of the king. So I have some old footage of myself, Kyle, and your uncle playing Magicka. Or I should say, Kyle and myself playing Magicka and your uncle getting killed a lot.
Nice.
That is a game that we're going to have to do sometime.
Magicka?
You know that? And that's going to have to be for the friend zone, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more fun with multiple people. And I think you're the only one out of our group that doesn't have that game.
Yeah. I would play it with you guys, but it doesn't appeal to me just like as a game that I would play on my own.
Yeah, Magicka is not a single player game at all. It is best at multiplayer. And particularly multiplayer with friends that, you know who will goof around together well. Because otherwise, just doing it with randoms online, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So Magicka filler content. RimWorld is winding down once again. And Jared, it is all your fault.
You're welcome.
And this is why you're not going to be a starter for the next series.
That's okay.
You had a good run of 2.
I had my 5 minutes of fame.
Being a 15-year-old lesbian.
Absolutely. Best thing I've ever done in my life. 10 out of 10. Would les again. I'm feeling probably more proud of that than I should.
Oh, you were so happy when that roll went out.
Yes, I was. I was very excited.
A little too excited, perhaps. But yeah, RimWorld has a couple weeks left, which means it's going to see a reset soon. And I'm a little not sure what I want to do with it because I have my mod set all set, ready to go for the next series, but I also have the starting information coming in for RimWorld Alpha 16. Now, granted, I'm on Alpha 14 right now. Because a mod that I'm using, there's a few mods I'm using that requires a secondary mod, a community content library, that still hasn't been updated in a few months. They're still working on it. Basically, Alpha 15 launched at probably the worst time for them to update. A couple of them were on vacation, and the other one was completely unable to dedicate a lot of time to fixing it. And they hit a major bug that was that is still keeping them from really releasing the full version. Which means that Combat Realism, which is the mod that I absolutely love using for RimWorld because it makes things so much more interesting. I mean, there's nothing like seeing someone pretty much instantly bleed out because they got shot in the heart. Right? To be fair, then I do know who to blame. Waiting for Jared to start just singing.
I don't know if my voice has it to sing right now.
Well, that never stopped you before.
That's fair, but it is stopping me now. Don't stop.
It's a miracle.
Now. No, it's not. Having such a good time. Having a ball. Yeah, it kind of hurts my throat. I'll pass. I'll pass on the rest of it.
That makes me far too happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, RimWorld's like I said, I'm gonna have to probably decide in the next week or so. I have a couple weeks left before the end of the series. But trust me, things start to go downhill very quickly. And it's all Jared's fault.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm probably going to stay with my mod set, but we'll see what the features are for Alpha 16. Because there's some interesting looking ones. And beyond that, Space Marine, still very early in the series, doing really well. Getting more views than I expected, meaning that I'm getting views on it. Because, to be perfectly honest, Space Marine was just a game that I wanted to play. And that's pretty much the gist of my channel, really, is that it's games that I want to play and just have fun with. And you catch that all on Gaming with Caffeine Rage over on YouTube, Or CB tweet. I did do a couple political tweets, but not nearly to the extent of Jared.
Yeah.
Mine was more just being dejected and being upset. Jared was a lot more angry and drunk.
That I was.
And you can catch mine over at Gaming with CR. And that brings us to the end of the show. We're still thinking the Internet Archive?
We are still thinking the Internet Archive.
Okay, just checking. Because remember, you're keeping me in the dark on this.
Well, yep, more PayPal problems.
Fucking PayPal.
Yep.
You would think they would be a friend about this, but no.
Their customer support sucks. That's the biggest problem.
Oh, the Valve problem.
Yeah. Anyways, carry on.
Well, a big thank you to the Internet Archive for unknowingly supporting us. But if you wish to support us directly, you could hit our Patreon and throw us a lot of money for our hopefully soon-to-be host at patreon.com/VGL podcast. Nearly got through the entire podcast without coughing.
Almost.
If you wish to contact us, you can do so at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or just tweet us at VGL Podcast. And we also have our curator, which Jared has been working feverishly on. Well, not feverishly, but he's been working on it. That's the main thing. steamcommunity.com/groups/VGL podcast. And our curator is over there as well, which will be working to get updated. And that is a secondary subscription, by the way. So make sure you follow that if you wish to keep tabs on what we're suggesting and what are our thoughts on games in general.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Our website is videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com. And on it, you'll see our show notes, our RSS feed, and once I get over to it, you'll have our Discord link as well on the front page. It seems like the best place to stick that.
Indeed.
And we're also on iTunes and Google Play if you wish to just not sit around on YouTube and listen to us through your YouTube app, or just keeping a window open. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin Lloyd, and you can find his work at incompre.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See you next time.
See you in the post-show.
Grab him by the trump.
Bye-bye. Well, let me lead. Let me make a couple of statements to kind of frame this, and I think.
Well, can I make one statement to start this off?
Sure, go ahead.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I agree with that. So let me first of all thank you to all the listeners that we have out there. I had a very hard day. So last night I kind of sort of live tweeted things that were going on. And
then you started getting drunk, and it kind of dropped off the internet.
Yeah, I got real upset. So,
well, I knew this was going to be your therapy session, and that's why I meant by our session tonight.
Yeah, and I also had a little bit of a panic. I mean, I am not a minority. I am a white guy living in the middle of white America.
Wait, you are?
Yeah, I am.
Oh shit.
But
I thought you were the token black.
Well, I thought that was you, with your sultry tones.
Damn it! Now we got to get a third person on here.
But anyways, so I had a little bit of a panic. I do have a family to think about, and I have student debt, and a Trump presidency is probably going to negatively affect me. So a little bit worried about that, and the atmosphere and everything made it a little bit worse. And then I knew today, the clinic where I am, we see a lot of people because we charge either nothing or very little to people who come in. We get a lot of minorities and underprivileged people, and I knew today I was going to be seeing some of them. I had 3 emergency sessions with clients who genuinely felt unsafe because of things that happened around here on election day. And like genuinely, legitimately afraid because they are black or homosexual or Hispanic. So I knew I was going to have to deal with that today. And it was rough. It was rough. Plus the clinic, we have a very diverse group of folks there at the clinic, from the staff to the interns. So there was a very general attitude of negativity today. And this morning, I posted a few tweets about how I was feeling, and thanks to everybody out there who listens. The main place that I was going with that is I got a lot of support from the community out there. A couple of people checked in on me today. A couple of you who have my phone number texted me. Really appreciate that, guys. It was pretty rough. I had one client session where for almost an hour, the 2 of us just sat there and cried. Like he's a younger black male, and he had received threats and things like that, and he just wanted to come to the clinic because it was the only place that he felt safe. And so we sat there for like an hour and just cried. And in some ways that felt good. It was a huge release, but on the other hand, it's like, man, he's got to go home and live with this. So it was a tough day for that. The other thing that I want to say is that, this whole, for the last, 6 months with increasing...
6 months has been the worst. It's been beyond that, though.
Yeah, but this past 6 months with increasing regularity as we got closer to Election Day, we ragged on Trump. We made fun of Trump. We insulted Trump.
There's been so many instances that I thought his campaign was done.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind that he won. Not just the fact that, Trump won, but just with all the scandals and all the bullshit.
Yeah. But so where I'm going with that is that, it's we had to wake up this morning and face reality. For better or worse, he won. And I am going to do my damnedest to treat him as a politician like I treat all politicians, and not focus on his character, but instead focus on his policies and my opinions of his ability to lead, and try my best to offer him the respect that I think that commanding the office of president deserves. And that is very hard to say, and it feels very bitter. This is coming through bitter teeth, but I am an adult, and I am not going to be someone who lets my emotions and my judgment of his character reflect on his job.
I've been trying to find the silver lining of this.
Oh, I'm not saying that there's a silver lining. I am just trying my best to treat him like I would treat any other politician, Republican or Democrat, who won that position. And his character makes that incredibly difficult. But I have said time and time again during this election to, people that I know in, personally in my, I almost said in my real life, but this is my real life, in my physical space, not my digital friends, but still on this podcast and other places, I don't care what a person's personal life is, if they're going to be, an elected official. I just care about their ability to do the job. That was mostly
that's where I have the biggest doubt about Trump is just, his ability to do the damn job.
I do have some serious doubts about that. His extreme lack of political experience, his very awful policies that he presented during the run-up to the election, a lot of the campaign promises he made. I guess the one thing that's closest to silver lining that I can think of is that all political candidates really break most of the things that they promise to get them elected. I really hope some of the worst ones, like mass deportations and the wall between us and Mexico, are promises.
Shutting down immigration for any Muslims.
Yeah, that one as well. I hope that those are promises he doesn't keep. I'm worried about his economic policies. I'm sure that he and the Republicans will gut, if not outright remove, the Affordable Care Act, which, like it or hate it, that's a policy thing that I can respect, but I personally have advocated for it, and I'm pretty sure that one's going to be gone, among other things. I think it will be difficult to him to reverse the Marriage Equality Act and Roe v. Wade. Not impossible, but difficult.
Yeah, here's the thing is that there's an acquaintance of mine on Twitter that's been talking about, well, he doesn't really mean that he's going to do that. It just boggles my mind that some of his supporters are kind of filling in the blanks with, well, he doesn't mean that. What he means is that. It's just mind-boggling,
Yeah. Honestly, with Trump, it's very difficult to know.
Yeah, because he plays a character.
Yeah, he plays a character. He lied so many times during his run for president. I mean, he's lied constantly, pretty much his entire life. That's how he's done business. And I'm not just saying that
small loan from his father of $1 million, but yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not just saying that to attack his character. We have proof of that from 40 years of business.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm not one of these people that's out there saying, oh my gosh, this is the last president we're ever going to have because, there won't be any more elections. Trump will just become a dictator. I'm not that person. I never once believed that during this election. But I have always believed that if he gets elected, America is going to have several years of bad times.
Yeah, my biggest concern about the possibility of him being the last president isn't that he installs himself as a dictator, a la Hitler. It's that he lets some nukes off the chain.
Yeah, that would be.
He's talked about. Well, we have nukes. Why don't we use them?
Yeah, that's very scary too. The worst thing about this, though, the very worst thing is not only did we get Donald Trump for president, but we also have a Republican-controlled Congress and almost certainly a Republican-controlled Supreme Court. Because I don't see...
Trump gets the Supreme Court justice nomination because they blocked Obama for how many months now?
A year. Almost a whole year.
A whole year. I lost track of just how long it's been.
Yeah.
I wonder if the people that's blocked him are now looking at Trump like, oh, fuck.
Who knows? We have no idea what the political implications of this are going to be because there are a lot of people who were Republican who voted for Hillary Clinton. If you look at the polling results, and this is, I hate the Electoral College. I hate it. I hate it. Because Hillary Clinton won the election. She won the majority vote, but she didn't get the majority vote in the correct states because of the Electoral College. This is now the fourth time that a U.S. president has been, who won the race, lost because of the Electoral College.
Yeah, the last one was W.
Yeah. That's a 7% failure rate in our voting system. And that's just crazy to me. The Electoral College worked way back when, but sometime in the early to mid 20th century, it became obsolete. But because it affords politicians a certain amount of power that they would lose if they just went to a direct popular vote, they keep it.
I understand a bit why they do it because it does make smaller states like mine a little bit more important. I mean, nobody gives a damn about my state.
Nobody cares about Tennessee either.
Well, there's more there than here, but the thing is that it's still 5 electoral college votes, so there's still a little bit of a casual nod to my state, and pretending to care about some of the issues here.
Yeah, I don't know. I've went on and on and on in the past about how stupid the Electoral College system is. And this is just another one of those cases where it wasn't a wide margin. Last time I checked, it was 225,000 votes that Hillary had more than Donald. But And that's still, that's still a majority. And in a democratic system, that's how it's supposed to work, but not in America.
Well, I did get a little bit of an insight on at least for here, why people are voting Trump. Or I should say a small group, because this was a group that was at the polling place when I went there. Oh, excuse you.
That was Katie again. She tripped over something. She's fine. You were saying?
Well, I went to the polling place. Actually, it was still dark when I left here to walk to the polls, because I am a creature of the night. So, I was there the moment the polls opened to cast my vote. I was actually the first one in my town to vote.
Nice.
And I got there about 10 minutes early. There was no one there. And about 5 minutes before the polls opened, 2 trucks pulled up. 5 people got out, and they're all Trump supporters. And they were talking about, amongst themselves, how are you going to vote? They never asked me about how I was going to vote, and which I'm actually thankful for. Because, in the end, I did vote Hillary because I looked at my options and was picking the least stinky turd.
Yeah. The one who was qualified to do the job?
The one that was qualified to do the job. But at the same time, I still don't like her because she is too indebted to a lot of people. And, yeah. Yeah. Well, and my third party options were either the party of anti-science woo. I'm sorry, the Green Party.
I was going to say the Green Party?
Let's see. The crazy guy, or I should say the less popular crazy guy. Or the one I didn't hear about until I actually looked up the ballot online. The nice. Constitution Party. And no, I'm not joking. I didn't know that the Constitution Party was going to be an option for me until I looked up my ballot online to take a look at local stuff, which local politics, I'm not sure why I even bothered, because half my ballot was one choice. Yeah. And I'm not joking there.
No, that's happened to me before, too. There were nominees for both parties, and actually a couple of independents on all the local stuff, but I've gone before, and it's just been only one candidate.
Yeah, which, boy, does that fill you with faith in the system?
Oh, yeah.
But I was listening to the Trump supporters, talk amongst themselves, and there was one line that really stood out to me. The oldest one, the group, I would say is probably late 60s, early 70s, said that he was going to support Trump because no matter what, he couldn't do much worse than things were here already. So yes, I live in a state of desperation, quite literally, for these people. And it kind of shed a little bit of a new light on it.
Yeah, I had seen that before. There's a lot of people who feel, and Groove, I guess now would be a good point to cut in that part of Groove's audio letter, because he talks about
Groove has
popularism.
Yeah, Groove has a couple bits in this week's show, because his letter is easily split into 3 parts, and one of them we're holding for next week.
Hey y'all, this is Groove, and what the fuck happened in the United States? Rage, seriously. I blame you for the election of Trump. I want to kindly remind you that you told us last week that he's gonna win, and now? Now he's the fucking president of the United States. And who saw it coming? Nobody. Because we were all like, haha, he's gonna be the president and we're gonna be fucked up, right? And we thought we were funny. But now he just did it, and we're stuck with him for the next 4 years. But I think the sad part of this nightmare is that the majority of the voters voted Clinton and not Trump, as far as I know. Here we see the consequences of an ancient voting system, as you've mentioned last week. And although the voting system made sense until maybe World War II, it doesn't in the 21st century. But the real problem is that this isn't the real problem. It's just amplifying it. Because the real problem is what we can see in most parts of the Western world and culture. The trend towards populism was growing over the last couple of years, and although that isn't good, it's still not the root issue, which is the missing trust and decreasing trust in politics and politicians by large parts of the population. And while the population loses its faith in established systems, the mainstream media behaves like everything's fine. And that disconnects people from politics and media, which results in what we see today, I think. But if we don't change anything, and I mean like change anything fast, it won't get better, as populism didn't stop growing just as Trump got elected. Therefore, politicians and media really have to reconnect to the population and stop all that nonsense. But let's stop talking about politics, because it really sucks right now.
Anyways, so Groove talked about populism there, and it's, just these people feel disenfranchised. They don't trust the political system. And I mean, I'm not saying this like to try and be, I don't know. I feel like saying this like I'm trying to paint people in a corner, and I'm not. The demographics show that by and large, those people are older white people, older white evangelicals who don't like where this progressive government has been going. And we still live in a white majority country. And, all of those...
Yeah, eventually we'll end up being some sort of shade of gray, but not yet.
3 election cycles is what I saw today. They were saying that in 12 years, the millennials and whatever fancy name they come up with for Generation Z, which is the generation underneath me, there'll be enough of us combined with enough of the baby boomers dying that politics will reverse strictly because of numbers.
In other words, get your gun and let's accelerate things.
Yeah, because there's been all kinds of stuff talking about the election. If only millennials had voted, Hillary Clinton would have won 507 of the electoral votes. So.
Yeah, she had absolutely no support of the older population.
But, anyways, it's just those people who don't... I think that's where the polls fell apart too. Those people don't participate in polls because they don't go online. They don't go to the places where, pollsters put out things where people can respond. They don't get called on call lists because, they... maybe they don't have phones, they don't have cell phones at least, or
they'll have cell phones and see an odd number and just not pick up.
Yeah, and so these people,
because that's happened to me several times. I see an odd number pop up on my cell phone, and just who the fuck is this? Turn off.
Yeah. So,
but then again, I've also been polled because I goof around on Mechanical Turk, and a lot of that was political the last month or so.
Yeah. So. But those people don't do that, so they don't get represented in the polls. And that's where the Trump campaign kept getting this whole silent voter thing, this whole silent, and everyone thought they were crazy. But, in hindsight, whenever people start talking about it and really thinking about it, they're like, hey, you know what? This whole group of voters that turned the election around, nobody talked to, because they weren't considered relevant. The same sort of thing happened with Brexit. Did that happen late 2015 or was that early 2016?
That was early 2016.
Okay.
There's been people talking about how, Brexit, it caused a lot of problems, and then America's like, hold my beer.
hold my beer and watch this. So, there was the same sort of thing happened there. These people who nobody talked to, who nobody thought of, just came out in droves and dug their heels in and said, no, we're not ready to let the world progress forward. We're going to keep it this way until we die. And, I'm okay. I'm not saying that, trying to say that that's the only belief system that should exist in the world. I'm absolutely open to hearing people's opinions and thoughts. We actually do have a few Trump supporters in our audience, and I'm not going to call anybody out or name any names, but they had some...
Even though you really want to.
Do what?
Even though you really want to right now.
No, actually, I don't. I don't because, I want to protect them. I want to protect their their rights and their privacy and their freedoms as well. And I don't think we have an audience that would just jump all over them, but you never know. I don't know everybody in our audience, so I'm going to give them the courtesy of not naming any names, but they talked to me on this over the weekend about the election because they know I'm very open to discussion, and thank you guys for taking the risk to talk to me about it. I could be lying or whatever. You guys don't know me, but thanks for taking the risk. And we had some very good, intelligent conversations about politics. I'm completely open to understanding or trying to understand and hearing your worldview, but I mean, my personal belief system is one of progression. And I think overall that's where the world is going, like it or not. And that's very difficult for those people to deal with. And I understand that. I mean, I feel pretty terrible today, honestly. I mean, I'm disappointed.
It feels like a step back.
Yeah, it feels like a huge step back. Like we made so many steps forward in the last 8 years during Obama's presidency. And, there are definitely parts of it that I didn't agree with. I don't, I think Obama was a good president. I agree with a lot of his stuff. I don't agree with everything that he said or did, but I think that it was more good than bad. And I feel like we're about to lose all of that. And that's very disheartening.
Yeah, I think part of this is also, the feeling that stepping back from everything is the fact that I'm not going to call everybody that voted for Trump a bigot, but the problem is that the bigots also voted for Trump. And Trump had a very bigoted message.
Yeah, and that is his
so
loudest
it's very
voice.
easy to have this guilt of association and see, half the country just, wanting to build a wall, wanting to keep the Muslims out. It's very easy to fall into this trap of just feeling defeated.
Yeah.
Not just, defeated because Clinton lost, but defeated because of the ideals of Trump winning.
Yeah.
And the fact that a presidential candidate that was endorsed by the KKK won.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's a lot of this.
Yeah. I think I'm about done. Do you have any? Oh, I forgot to say what I saw yesterday. There was some pretty awful stuff that happened where I live yesterday. There was a group of people walking, marching, I don't know what they were doing, but they had all these signs that said "Make America White Again," and they had like a little gallows they were carrying around with a beanbag figure of Hillary Clinton hanging from it.
Oh, really?
And all kinds of other racist signs and things they were carrying around.
That's what I was talking about, how no, not everybody that voted for Trump is bigoted, but you are getting this guilt of association because of people like that.
Yeah.
Or in the few days before the election, a predominant black church in the South, and I'm blanking on where it was exactly. Maybe you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know where it was either.
Yeah, it was torched with the word Trump written on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's things like that just, it brings you down because your mind wants to group these people into this one and just huge group, but it's not like that. There's people that voted for Trump simply because they thought that he would, make America great again. That he would change things from how they currently are. Because, well, let's put it this way: my state went 69% for Trump. That is an absolutely huge margin. He doubled Clinton's numbers here, and then the rest was a split between Gary Johnson and then a little bit of Stein and I can't. It was Castle for the Constitutional Party. Castle got 0.2% or something of the vote. It was just absolutely pathetic. I have a feeling that a lot of other people are like, wait, who's this fifth guy?
I was actually really proud of Tennessee. I knew we were going to go red. There was really no discussion on that. But Trump only won 65% of the vote, which sounds ridiculous, but Mitt Romney and John McCain both won over 70% of the vote in Tennessee when they ran in the.
I don't have the historical numbers
2012.
for Romney or McCain. Maybe I should go and look at looking for that because, yeah, my state's actually very red, which is a little weird considering you would think that it would be blue just considering we split away from the South, literally.
Yeah. But, I mean, I just, you brought that up. I wasn't going to say anything about it, but you brought it up. So I was like, oh, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, still a very deep red state, but slightly less red than we've been before.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope. But, yeah, I'm about ready to wrap this up. If you don't have anything to add, I do have one last thing, but it's not a discussion point, so.
Oh, boy. I'm not sure if I like the sound of that either.
No, it's fine. I promise.
I don't really think I have anything else to say. I think it's more of wait and see. I want to be wrong about Trump. I really do.
Yeah,
I want all my criticism and just general distrust to be off or not, to have him be a great president, to make America great again. But the thing is that I know the platform that he's ran on, and he's been a character of a person and not a person. And that's what concerns me the most, is that the entire debate system, all three debates, it was more just mudslinging back and forth between him and Clinton than actually talking about issues. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen when he has to deal with other leaders, because, he's going to be the big fish in the pond, and it's not going to end well. I don't think it is. I want to be wrong on this.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I don't really have anything else to add to that specifically. Just I'm with you on that one. So the thing that I'm going to add, one last little thing. I listened to a podcast that came out today from a couple of people that I listened to, or another podcast that I listened to. And they did a special short episode. I mean, it's 30 minutes, so take that as you will for length, but just discussing the election. And he's an immigrant, and she is an older lady who has been around since the days of first wave feminism, when feminism actually meant something. And they just...
Sorry. Well, we may be getting into that a little bit later. Actually, no, wait. It would be later for us, but you've already heard that.
Yeah. But so they discuss the election from their point of view and offer some of what we said is echoed there. They bring up a couple points that we didn't talk about because, just different perspective. And we honestly can't relate to that. So they released that podcast and made a special note that they were going to, they released it with Creative Commons license, which means that it's available to be used by anybody as long as we don't edit the work. And I'm just going to tack that on to the end as soon as I finish talking. And if you guys want to listen to it, to hear more of this, hear a different perspective, go right ahead. But obviously you don't have to.
I do want to add on one last thing, is that there's been a couple of people that have said that if you voted Trump, you're not welcome. Total Biscuit actually went off on a complete rant about this. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
And I really disagree with that. It's going to make things even worse.
Yeah.
And it gets really back to what I was talking about, splitting making people into this group that you really can't split apart. And it's just, I just wanted to bring that up, and that we're not doing that. If you voted for Trump, it's a little hard for me to understand, but I kind of understand it from certain points of view, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess we're going to talk for another minute. What I talked about will be there when we finish. It's, we never can stay on task. The thing about TB, I'm not defending him, but I understand where he's coming from as an immigrant who might be facing some serious complications with his health care because he has cancer.
Yeah. And also TB has had issues with not just this cancer, but also just getting into the damn country to begin with.
Yeah. So I can see his point of view and see where that's coming from, genuine circumstance and emotion. You know, I can see where he's coming from, but I don't think that that's the correct approach to take.
Yeah, and you really shouldn't be burning bridges like that.
Right. And I do agree with you. You know, we're welcoming everyone in this podcast. I don't, you know, like I said, I know that we have some Trump supporters in our listener base, and I welcome you guys here. Feel free to talk to me as we go forward into the Trump presidency about, I don't know, if you have questions. I probably will talk to you guys a little along the way too to help me understand if he says or does something that I'm like, what the heck, you know?
Yeah, it's going to be a ride. I'm not sure if it's going to be a good one or not.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't want to push anyone away. Our audience is predominantly American, and, you know, we are Americans, and we've all got to make this crazy ride work. And putting up walls, and I realize that could be a pun, but I think that's the best word to use. Putting up walls between each other is only going to make it worse. Good luck, everybody.
You have, as is well documented, a better memory than I do. So tell me this. Do you remember the light bulb?
Oh, gosh. That rings a bell.
Podcast we used to do,
Oh.
short, half hour.
Yeah.
I once told you about William Moulton Marsden.
No, I remember that. The Wonder Woman guy.
Right. We
Yes.
talked about WWE SummerSlam.
Sure
for
we did.
some inexplicable reason.
Yes, it's all coming back to me now.
We shuttered that podcast back in June because we felt like it wasn't really living up to its potential. We felt like it had never really found its identity. Well, it turns out that sometimes when you stop doing a thing, you understand it a little better. Hey, everybody. I'm Alistair Stevens.
I'm Lonnie Diane Rich.
Welcome to the new and improved light bulb. Well, hopefully improved.
Hopefully
we can't at this point
improved.
guarantee only new,
We're
I
hoping,
suppose.
Yes.
But we do this, as we do all things, with a great deal of reckless optimism.
Yes.
This is the new revived version of the light bulb, and it's going to be a little different from the previous incarnation of this podcast. The first version of the light bulb was a pop culture podcast, and we found that a little limiting. We had, over the course of the 75 episodes or so that we produced for the light bulb, pretty much stretched the definition of pop culture to breaking point.
Yes.
And now we're dispensing with it entirely. Now we
Yes.
shall no longer even attempt to keep up the facade.
Yeah.
This is not a pop culture podcast, or rather, it is a pop culture podcast. It's just other things too. This is not going to be a regular podcast. We're not setting a regular production schedule for the new light bulb, but every 10 or 14 days, you're going to get a new episode of this show in which we're going to discuss some new topic. Lonnie, we've been talking about bringing back the light bulb for quite some time, right?
Well, we've been talking about doing something else. I think my problem with the light bulb, I never really liked it because it always felt, no, I mean, I
It
like
always
the
spoke
show.
very highly of you.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much. But it always felt to me like it was, you know, we would watch a movie, or we would play a video game, or we would, you know, find something, like we would just do something every week that we would talk about. And we had this very kind of strict harness around it. It was extremely structured, which I think works really well for our other podcasts, the show by show thing where we're doing the same thing every week.
You're dusted, so we
Right.
can do this all days.
What I was really missing was kind of the conversational element that we had in Story Walk Sunday, where we didn't really plan everything out so much. We just sat down and we'd have a conversation. Now, the difficult thing with that is that you're like, oh God, what are we going to talk about? You know? And it becomes a little difficult. So I think that's part of the reason why we went to something more specific with the light bulb. But for me, it wasn't scratching that itch.
Yeah.
The conversation, the discussion, talking about things that aren't necessarily about story or narrative, but just things that we find interesting in the world. And I kind of wanted a place to do that. We had some other ideas, things that we were bouncing around. We were talking about, you know, starting a new podcast that was somewhere between the light bulb and Story Wonk Sunday.
Right.
that we had kind of like the best of both worlds about
A
it.
single topic podcast with a social pop culture, just culture, in fact,
Yes.
inclination, but something that wasn't so strict, something that wasn't so rigid.
Yeah.
That has been kicking around here in the Storywonk studio for really the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, we've had a few ideas. We've had a few different things that we were kind of bouncing around. And then the election happened.
It sure did.
The election happened. This is a thing that happened. And sort of threw us, I think, somewhat for a loop. And we realized that one of the things that we want to do is you don't want to curse the darkness. You want to shine a light in it.
There you go.
And we had this idea, and we were talking about it in the cars. We were kind of driving around in a blind panic.
The best way to drive around.
Exactly. You should absolutely, if you're going to drive around, do it in a blind panic because it's always interesting. And we're having this discussion about, how do we shine a light? Like, what kind of podcast do we want to do where we can express the kinds of things that we want to express without being like super happy-go-lucky and ignoring the very real problems that we have, but also without giving in to fear and despair and panic.
A podcast in which we can best exemplify the virtues that we hold to be important, the virtues that we try to propagate out through our fantastic community.
Yes.
We're talking about insight and analysis and thoughtfulness and compassion. Yes, we're talking about positivity. This is what we're going to do here on The Light Bulb. Every episode, we're going to turn our attention to some new topic. Some topics are going to be political. Some are going to be philosophical. Some are going to be pop cultural. Some are going to be outright silly, I'm sure. But in every new episode, we're going to try to get to the heart of the matter. We're going to explore this together in a conversational style and thereby start a conversation that hopefully you guys will pick up and carry ever onward over on the Storywonk forum, over on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you happen to be on the internet. So we are going to discuss in this episode the results of last night's election.
Yes.
It is November 9th. It is the morning of November 9th as we record this, and Donald Trump has just been elected President of the United States.
Yeah.
This was an unexpected outcome, an almost unanimously unexpected outcome. The common consensus had it that Hillary Rodham Clinton was going to take the White House, that we were going to have our third consecutive term of office for a Democrat president.
Yes.
We're not going to necessarily get too deep into the party politics here because, honestly, that's the least important facet of this.
Yeah.
Though we should, right up front, I suppose, frame this discussion a little bit. This discussion, this conflict, this living nightmare in which we find ourselves is not about Democrat versus Republican. It's not even about liberal versus conservative. It is about, in a very fundamental level, love versus hate, hope versus fear.
Fear.
How are you feeling this morning?
Well, I have to say, I'm working very hard at not kind of getting into this disaster thinking, that like, okay, Donald Trump is president. It's World War III. It's nuclear holocaust. It's the end of the world. That we're going to have concentration camps and we're going to have things that are unthinkable on American soil. Although I will say we have had concentration camps on American soil before.
Sure.
And we have come back from terrible things that have happened. All of that said, I think that getting into this kind of escalating, fiery snowball of disaster thinking is not conducive to what it is that we want to do. And I think that not just you and me as Storywonk, but that we as a culture, as a community, want to give into. I think that this is the most important time for all of us to live by the principles which we voted for. And that includes people, I think, who didn't vote the way that we may have wanted them to.
Right.
One of the most difficult things in a circumstance like this is to not look at the other side and see them as inhuman, orcs versus hobbits,
To see them as evil, to see them as short-sighted, to see them as stupid.
Because this is what made this happen.
Right.
That is the exact kind of thinking that created this situation where this sort of thing can happen.
Othering. Yes.
We have allowed our media, we have allowed our politicians to divide us into us and them. And when we are so polarized, that is when we're vulnerable to exactly this kind of thing that happened. The people who voted for Trump, yes, many of them are outright racist. Some of them are just outright bad people. And I'm absolutely not going to pretend that that is not the case. But there are some who are simply afraid. And I think that we are going to need to find a place to meet together, so that we can all work together to address this really big problem that we have. Now, one of the things that I take hope in is the fact that we do have a political system that is designed to prevent too many bad things happening when this kind of bad thing happens. And so, I am hoping for the resiliency of our particular political system, which has been unknown anywhere else. Like nobody else has a system quite like ours. And it is Byzantine and it is bizarre and a lot of it doesn't make sense, but it is made to have power in a lot of different places.
Right. To distribute that authority.
Right. And so I want to make sure that I'm being absolutely clear here. There are a lot of people out there who are extremely angry at everybody who voted for Donald Trump. And I completely understand that. There are a lot of people out there who are very afraid, about their own personal situations. We have a lot of populations that are targeted and that are seriously at risk. And I don't want anybody to think for a moment that I don't take that incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
But panic is not going to help anyone.
It is understandable, though. And I do want to draw a very careful line of delineation between this election and any previous election.
Yeah.
We would not, I think, had Mitt Romney won in the last election, I don't think we would be sitting here the morning after recording a podcast. I don't think we would be sitting under this shroud of darkness. But I know this to be true. I have talked to a number of clear-eyed Republicans who aren't happy with how this has gone, who aren't happy with the mandate that seems to have been claimed here. Fear isn't good for anyone.
Yeah.
No good decision has ever been made out of fear. That's true in politics. It is true in life. Really, though, what I want to do in the heart of this podcast is talk about where we go next. Talk about how we get through today and get through tomorrow. This is why we've resurrected the light bulb this morning, rather than waiting another week or another month or another 6 months before we brought the show back. I feel, you feel that it's necessary now, in part, just to talk through our conflicted feelings about it.
Yeah, because I do have a lot of conflicted feelings. My desire here is to shine a light in the darkness. My desire here is to not fight fire with fire. Don't fight hate with hate. That is what we've been doing, and that is what created this situation. That for anybody, to try to find a way to all of us meet each other, understand each other, and try to find a way to fight this problem together. I think that is the only way that we are going to get through this, as unscathed as we can hope for.
Yeah.
So and it's hard for me to even say it. I will tell you right now, I'm extremely upset that there is that much hatred in this country. I think that while I think I understood that it was there, much more in recent years than I did before. I'm a white woman. I had an incredible amount of privilege to just not see it. In recent years, I really have woken up to that. And I think that has been a terrifying experience in and of itself, understanding that there's a darkness in my country that I didn't realize was there. And I didn't do enough years and years and years ago to really, I always voted Democrat. I was always liberal, I was always like fighting the good fight, but I didn't really understand the things that were happening to these targeted populations, Now I do, and I understand that, and I see that darkness. But I think that maybe in the fact that now it's out in the open, that we're not dog whistling anymore, that we're not gaslighting and saying, oh no, it's not about race. It's not about this. Right?
Fundamentally misrepresenting ourselves, our communities, our shared culture in this fragmented public discourse. We are at least now compelled to talk honestly about these underlying issues.
That maybe
We
now
can't
that we see the
ignore them.
truth, exactly. Maybe now that we see the truth, maybe now that we're actually talking
Yeah.
about what we're talking about, maybe now there will be a way to find our way back to some form of unity. And we have to hope for that. We have to work for that.
Exactly.
We have to take action. The response to panic, and I can tell you this as somebody who's had anxiety disorder like my whole life, the response to panic is action. Do something. Take whatever power you have, whether it's being a storyteller or whether it's being an organizer or whether it's being a part of the community and going out and volunteering,
Right. Or being a parent or being a neighbor
right.
or being a teacher or however you interact with the people around you. This is the story of an entire society. And believe it or not, despite what the 24-hour cable news networks would have you believe, we are still one society. And I say that from the privileged position of someone who hasn't been a part of the society for very long.
Yeah. Welcome to America, babe.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was looking across the sea at the last few elections in the UK, and I was feeling a little gratitude.
Right.
That I was here, I must admit. And
Well,
now,
for a few moments.
There
Well,
is still work to be done.
Let's talk a little bit from the perspective of, somebody who's a British citizen, you were in the UK when David Cameron was elected.
Sure.
And you've kind of seen this turn, this darkness kind of take over in the UK as well.
Yeah, it's not quite as simple in the UK because the Prime Minister simply wields less power.
Yeah.
The political forces at play in the UK are deeper and yet more subtle.
Yeah.
This current crisis in the United Kingdom can be traced back to the rise of New Labour in the late 1990s. I think that introduced a divisive discourse into British politics for really the first time. I mean, Thatcher cut at a stroke to the very heart of British society, but that was institutionalized with the rise of New Labour. And we're still, I think, to a certain extent, reaping what we sow. And this is complicated still further by the fact that I'm not just British, I'm Scottish.
Yes.
So I've been dealing with this dual layer of
we had the
domestic
independence
politics.
referendum last year
Exactly.
that failed, and that was a huge disappointment.
And I am innately, by experience and by philosophy, a federalist. I believe in unity and cooperation. I think that we are stronger together than we are apart, and that really shouldn't be a provocative position in this place at this time. I have always believed in the United States. There's a narrative that is constantly applied to the US that is critical, that is cynical, that is caustic. But I think that if you look objectively at the arc of history here, particularly through the 20th century, you find enormous and consistently surprising grace and kindness and progress. We can look back at the presidency of Barack Obama to see enormous progress that took place almost without forewarning, almost without anticipation. We've simply continued this inexorable path toward social justice. It's tough to see that challenged. It's tough to see that broken. Certainly, I've had this experience coming off the back of the independence vote in Scotland, coming off the back of the Brexit referendum, and now this. But we're learning valuable lessons. Because in each of those elections, in each of those public votes, fear played a primary part. The fear of separation led Scottish people to vote against independence. And also, we should say, no one expected that.
Yeah.
Polls have now been proved to be completely and comprehensively unreliable.
Yes.
Polling science, such as it was, just cannot match the complexity of modern life. It just cannot match this oversaturated, overly dense culture of news and information and bias and
misinformation.
Yes, nested echo chambers of propaganda outpouring from apparently sanctioned outlets and unsanctioned outlets too. The polls have been, I think, a major component in the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because there was a complacency. And you mentioned earlier the anger that some Democrats feel that some liberals, I won't label this with party affiliation, the anger that some liberals feel against anyone who voted for Donald Trump. But it's not just Trump, because we feel that anger against anyone who voted against Hillary, anyone who voted for Gary Johnson, anyone who voted for Jill Stein, anyone who chose not to vote because Hillary wasn't Bernie. The fear, the suspicion, the fractured narratives that have led us to this point are all explicable, I think. They can be understood. What's most important now is that we move forward and we try to find some kind of, not just progress, but some kind of peace of mind. Because, as I said, I still believe, undaunted optimist that I am, I still believe that this is one nation. This is one society, or at least it can be.
Yeah, it can be. And as long as it can be, I think that we have to remember what we're working for rather than what we're working against. I think we have to remember that we are pursuing a positive rather than trying to battle a negative.
Which was lost in the early days of this election campaign.
Yeah.
The hashtag Never Trump is not helpful, was not helpful. That's not the dialogue that you want to enter into. We have retreated to bunkers of political identity and the ways in which our sense of ourselves, our sense of our communities have been co-opted by the media outlets, by our political parties is terrifying. That's really problematic, because when you seek to co-opt someone's personal identity in the service of your brand, your perspective, your mission, your politics, you're on very, very thin ice there. So for me, the most important thing to do, and this is by no means easy, and I begrudge no one a duvet day. I begrudge no one panic and a pint of ice cream. Let me tell you, we have gone through that ourselves before we sat down to begin recording this podcast. I begrudge no one a recovery period.
Yeah.
But for me, moving forward, there is only one thing that we can do. You mentioned earlier about volunteering, about getting out into your community, about making the change happen. And all of that is true, but all of that can be distilled into one simple thought and action. We have to love more. We have to love more than the people who seek to divide us hate.
Yes.
It is literally that simple. And even as I say it, it sounds naive. It sounds Pollyanna-ish. I'm British. I'm not comfortable using the word love in a public forum. But here we are.
No, it's very true. You cannot. The idea of fighting fire with fire is ridiculous. It burns everything down. You fight fire with water. Exactly. You fight hate with love. And that's the thing that I'm going to completely be honest here. I'm angry. I'm furious. I find this whole thing is so incredibly upsetting. But I can't make a difference holding on to that. I can't make it better. And so, I have to believe that there is space in my heart to forgive the people that allowed this to happen. And to forgive myself that maybe there was something I didn't do enough, that allowed this to happen. I need to believe that this is not, 1930s Germany. I need to believe that we're better than that, and that we're stronger than that, and that I need to believe that what we have hired is more incompetence, that they're just so bad at what they do, that they won't be able to perpetrate all of the evil things that they used to get the election. I hope that in the same way that a politician will promise wonderful things that they have absolutely no intention of doing, that he has promised terrible things that he has absolutely no intention of seeing through because it doesn't suit his purpose in the moment. I hope that the people who are not on my side, the Republicans, the red, who are in Congress, but who are rational people. I have a representative here that I didn't vote for. His name is John Katko. He came out against Trump, but he came out against Trump. He doesn't take money from gun lobbies. I've looked into him. He's, as far as red goes, not the worst, So I look at him and I think maybe he will join with the Democrats and stand up against this. Maybe we have enough good people who, even though we disagree on some basic fundamental ideas, who will stand together and not let this destroy everything that we are, because I do believe that we're better than this. And I do believe that we have to stand up for the things that we believe in that are good and wholesome. And hatred is just not going to do that. It's not going to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No.
But I don't want to re-record this. I want people to hear this. I mean, this is honest, you know? I think that if you're angry, I understand. And if you're scared, I understand. And if you're in a targeted population, I'm so sorry. We sent our girls today to a school that has 2 Muslim girls in it. Mm-hmm. And we sent them there and we told them, look, when you see those girls, you smile, you wave, you embrace them. Mm-hmm. You know, if anybody says anything to them, instead of confronting the bully, which never does any good, you go to them and you stand with them.
Yeah.
You know? And I think about those girls. We live in this rural community in upstate New York. You know, there's Trump stuff all over the lawns around the area where we live.
Sure, though
there's
live
also
in a county that
we live in a county
blue,
that did
weirdly,
go blue, which was really, really nice. And I think about these people, and I think that they know not what they do. Mm-hmm. And as I need to open up the grace and the forgiveness, that if they understand what they do, that I have a place at my table for them. Sure. That if they can understand and come back from this, that I will be the one who's there to help them come back.
Exactly. And this isn't about, you know, the size of government or federal authority or funding for the military or any other political issue. This is just about this divisive dialogue of hatred. This is about a public discourse that seeks actively to fragment us, that seeks actively to turn us against each other, neighbor against neighbor.
Yeah, outrage for outrage. We have been feasting on this banquet of poison for the last, you know, I mean, I think that you can go right back to Reagan, but definitely since the attacks of 9/11, we have been afraid. We have been outraged at things which aren't true. Both sides have perpetrated lies and propaganda to try to gain a political edge, to try to gain political power. And we need to think critically of not just the people that we disagree with, but the people that we agree with. We need to find a space where we can bring back, I mean, the whole idea of taking back the country, you know, sounds like an assault. But I want the people that I believe in. I want my neighbors back. You know, I want my community back. Yeah. I want to believe that 48% of our population is not pure evil, that they're afraid and that they've been lied to. And that as we encourage loving discourse, as we encourage critical thought, as we get past the panic, you know, that we find a way to get everyone together, because we have to do that. If we truly believe that we're in the right, that we're on the right side of history, then we have to behave like that.
Right.
And that means that we love where they hate, that when they go low, we go high, that we serve as an example of how to get through this. And I have to believe that we can do that.
I believe that we can. I believe that we have. I believe that repeatedly throughout history, we have done exactly that, that we have built in the face of adversity, you know, cities on the hill, that we have done amazing and ungodly and fantastic things together.
And we have done things that have never been seen before in history. So people keep looking back at all of these historical examples of like when this kind of thing has happened and all the disaster that has come from it. But America has bucked every trend. We've done things that have been impossible. We've done things that nobody else has ever done. And I think that we need to harness that spirit and go into this without allowing that hate and that anger to consume us, because we won't get anywhere with that.
So how do we do that? How are you going to do that? What's your next step when we get up from this desk? As you search the office for tissues,
yes,
and we get up from the
desk.
desk.
The office for tissues. Well, here's the thing. I think the first thing is, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right?
Right.
So, you have to practice self-care. You have to give yourself the energy, I think you have to unplug from the poison. We've had it feeding into our veins via social media, via, our television shows that we choose, the pundits that we choose to listen to. We have our journalists have failed us. Our major media corporations have failed us. But the journalists themselves, there are good journalists out there that are doing really genuinely good work. And those people are going to bond together, and we're going to have sources we can trust, again.
I hope so.
I believe
think
that we will.
The systematic failure of journalism in this country has been one of the most depressing.
It became about the money rather than about the truth.
Well, and it's always been. Let's not be naive. I mean, journalism has always been.
No, I don't think it's always been that. I think it's been that since 24-hour news channels, because journalism was never a money-making activity before. It was never something. It was always the fourth estate. It was always the protective element.
When I say always, I mean always within the modern era.
Oh, within the modern era, yes. Since the rise of 24-hour cable news, absolutely.
Specifically of advertising.
Since the early 90s, yes. It has absolutely been going in that direction.
This has been... a systematic failure. And that has been compounded by the systematic mathematical and scientific failure of our polls and pundits.
Yes.
No one saw this coming, which is part of the story behind it. I think that the fact that it was unanticipated, the fact that 12 hours before the election, Nate Silver had Hillary at 78% or whatever it was that he had her chances at. Every major poll had this race close, perhaps, but still skewing toward Hillary Clinton. The fact that is the case, the fact that these results were so horribly misinterpreted and misrepresented, contributed to this circumstance, contributed to the election of
extremely
this person.
Dangerous person. Yeah.
Selfish, short-sighted,
narcissistic,
incompetent.
Absolutely incompetent. I am banking on his incompetence to prevent him from doing, too many terrible things.
I genuinely, and this is perhaps a conversation better suited to another time, I genuinely don't think he has interest in doing any of the things that he promised, which, in a weird way, makes him worse. The only way that he could be worse is by failing to do even the vile things that he said he was going to do in order to manipulate the electorate.
And he did. He manipulated the electorate, but he is not a conservative and he is not a liberal. He is an opportunist. And where the opportunity lives, that's where he'll go. And we can only hope that his incompetence will prevent too many horrible things from happening until we can reverse this. He's committed 5 impeachable offenses since this morning. So, I mean, honestly, I'm hoping that we will go in that direction. But the thing is that we who are on this side of things, we who know, who we elected, who we wanted to be in this role, we have to be better. We have to be stronger. We have to be more loving. We have to be more capable. And these are all of the things that is on us to do because we are the only ones left to do it.
The enemy right now is also, I think, the greatest temptation, this disillusionment.
Yeah.
This desire to just be done with it, to not fight anymore, to not face it anymore. And if you are capable of not fighting it anymore, of not facing it anymore, then yours is a position of immeasurable privilege.
Yeah. I mean, we're white people, right? There's hardly anybody more privileged than us, in this country. And I know that I benefit from that, but I don't benefit from that. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
Right. You personally, perhaps peripherally benefit.
No, I'm sure that I have.
Falters.
Our society, and when our society falters, when we take segments of our society and decide that they have less value than other segments of the society, all of us suffer from that. Everybody suffers from that. And I think there are some people who don't recognize the ways in which that hurts and harms us and our children. But it does. And I see that very, very clearly. So I accept that I have this privilege and I'll use it for whatever power it gives me.
In order to deconstruct it.
In order to deconstruct it. Yeah, I would gladly give that away. I voted to please, please have that privilege be spread around. Have it not be a privilege because everybody gets it, This is not going to be, I think, a template that we're going to follow for the rest of the episodes in this, the second volume. No, today is an extraordinary day.
But we needed to talk this through. We needed to have the conversation that we were having and to share that conversation with you guys, with our listeners and friends spread out all across this land, all across the world, to invite you, as difficult as it may be, as unfair and unjust as it may be, to invite you to take the higher road, to love in the face of hate, because that's the only thing that makes this.
It is the only thing. You throw fire on fire, it just burns.
Forge personal connections. Give freely of your compassion after you have, of course, refilled the font of your own compassion, after you have affixed the oxygen mask to your own face first.
And care for yourself. Yeah. Every little thing that gives you joy, hold on to that thing.
No response to this turn of events is wrong.
Yeah.
You are not to be judged for your feelings today.
Yeah,
or
if you're
tomorrow.
angry. I mean, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm angry. I'm trying so hard to find the forgiveness that will make us whole again.
I want to close with a quote that is often attributed to Martin Luther King, but actually comes from a Unitarian minister and prominent American transcendentalist, Theodore Parker. In 1853, Parker wrote a collection of 10 sermons of religion, the third of which was entitled Of Justice and the Conscience. Parker wrote, "Look at the facts of the world. You see a continual and progressive triumph of the right. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. But from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." That'll do it for this return to the light bulb. We'll be back in a couple weeks, 10 days, 14 days, something like that.
Yeah.
We'll be back with a more
when we've got
regular
something
show.
to talk about.
If you guys have topics that you would like us to discuss, if you want to send us articles or essays or any piece
we'll
of
give
inspiration.
advice. We love to give advice. We'll do an advice show. So ask us anything about anything.
Ask us how to take the perfect road trip.
Yes,
we will
exactly.
tell you.
We will give you fantastic advice.
That will do it for today. If you like what you've heard here and know someone who might benefit from hearing it too, please share the link. We don't normally call this out within the body of the podcast itself. All the podcasts that we do at storywonk.com are released under a Creative Commons license. That means that you can take them, copy them, share them, distribute them. You can do whatever you like. As long as you don't change the podcast or take our names off it, you can do whatever you like. You can burn CDs with this thing and spread it out over your college campus or whatever you want to do. That is all completely fine with us. We love you guys.
We do love you guys. And if you need a little encouragement or just some fun, I will be posting tons of cat and goat gifs later on today. Follow us on Twitter at PaperBullets for Alistair, at Lonnie Diane Rich for me, at Storywonk for both of us.
Until next time, I'm Alistair Stevens.
And I'm Lonnie Diane Rich. And remember, don't curse the darkness.
Turn on a light.